with your host, Ricardo Rice, and my correspondents.
Simone Cherie.
Kyle Andrew.
Double-r.
All right, so, we're going to get into today. I'm okay, because I'm flushed. I haven't seen everybody here in like weeks. So everybody's in the studio today. So the whole gang's back together. So I feel all special and so on and so forth. But it won't last because I'm sure Double-r will do something that will get on my nerves in the next 10 minutes. So it won't last. But it's okay. It's absolutely fine. Oh, please.
That's it.
We also, which I normally would not do, but since she's here, I'm going to let her introduce herself. My sister is in the house today. So I'm going to let her go ahead and introduce herself. So she's joining us for the full 2 hours. So tell everybody your name and a little bit about you.
Hi, my name is AJ Austin. I go by Coach AJ for short. I'm a master life coach trainer here in Atlanta, Georgia. So I'm excited to be here today. You'll find out more about me during my talk hour.
Yeah, we're going to shift to her at 1 o'clock. So trust me, she's ready, willing, and able.
Yeah.
So I'm just elated to have her here with us on today. It brings my heart joy. So I'm really overjoyed today. But that's not going to last long again. So let's jump right into it. Simone, give us the rundown.
Yeah, so we're going to cover 2020 elections because obviously it's a very, very important election cycle. We want everybody to know what's going on the Democratic side, how people are doing in the polls, what the stakes are, what you can do. And then we're going to talk about this past week because it's been a crazy week. Much so for our president, much so on Twitter. If you have not followed, we will make sure that you know what's going on there. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the climate and what's going on in the Amazon. We're also going to cover some local news, and we have a couple more stories. We're going to squeeze that all into an hour and try to keep it as positive as possible. Because some of the stuff is heavy. We're gonna try.
I'm not expecting that to be as positive.
All right, get to the first story. It's already gonna be bad.
Well, no, it's actually not bad because now we're finally getting to a place where. Okay, so let me just say this. I already feel like the Democrats have lost too much ground because we spent so much time with 20-something candidates and we didn't dwindle them down fast enough. So I already feel like we've lost a lot of footing. So the fact that people are starting to drop out kind of makes me happy because, if you're me and one of the new guys who you will hear from later on today, we're discussing that trying to keep the attention span of millennials and Generation Z, which are becoming the bigger classes of individuals, is harder when you divide their attention, which you guys have done for the last, 8 to 9 months with all these different candidates and all their thoughts and processes. Now we get down to the wire and now they're starting to drop out. Well, too little too late. Hopefully not, but I don't know. So who dropped out?
So you were talking about Seth Moulton dropped out, and he's been all over headlines today. And I don't think they're all negative. He's given a statement, and they've raised a lot of good money. What people are kind of waiting to see is who he's going to throw his weight behind. So that's what. After you drop out, typically you endorse somebody that everyone who's following you can now turn to, somebody who's similar to you, or whatever. So I think that's what most people are kind of waiting on right now. But the field is still really, really divided. But Biden's had a strong, consistent lead, and he still has a very strong, very consistent lead. We didn't get to really talk about the second round of debates. And like you said, they lasted multiple nights. I don't think people have attention spans for that.
I didn't watch it. I'm not
12 plus hours of debates, piece after piece. And I was
like,
like...
It don't even make sense because people only had 30 seconds to answer.
Right.
That was it?
Yeah.
Well, that's because so many of them.
And then you get to go back and you get to rebuttal if your name was... So it's like, it ends up becoming, you have to keep people that short because everyone gets a chance to speak if their name is mentioned.
It's trash.
But it was a lot. Did you watch either of those?
Not at all.
Because it's a lot.
I watched both debates. The first one everybody was talking about because Kamala had her little moment. And then it was like...
Well, she had a big moment.
It was a moment.
She had a big moment.
Yeah.
Like let's
she
not
only went up
downplay.
1 point in the polls. Like it didn't change anything.
But it changed how people viewed her because she came out swinging with no gloves. Everybody was like, wait. Who's this chick?
But then when it was time to come back and they asked her about policy, where you just start attacking people. Like that's what those debates look like.
Yeah.
You attack Biden, you attack Bernie, you attack Warren, you attack like all the big people, and then you seen is it
Amy Klobuchar?
Williamson.
She had her little moment.
Right. In the second one.
In the second one, like she went hard, but
they were talking about the women.
And she was the most Googled person that night. So I think that was her standout night.
But where's the policy?
I hate to echo Trump though, but like, okay, so do you remember after the first debates, President Trump was like, "This is the most boring debate I've ever."
It's boring.
It really kind of was, especially if you think about 2016 debates, which were trending on the 2020 night. Which I think it means people were like, when were the debates actually interesting? Like those Republican debates in 2016 when Trump was running were really.
That's because his he's
was
an entertainer.
hilarious.
So I'm just saying
Let
in
us not
comparison, in
forget
comparison.
that Trump is an entertainer.
Right.
So
Yeah.
of course he knows how to make a debate look like an all-out celebrity smackdown. Let us not forget that. But let us also not forget
His
we
eye
are talking
rolls.
about the next. Actually, I had somebody in my car. And we were talking about this. I don't know how we get on politics. I try to avoid it. And he was like, well, yeah, you know, me and my wife always laugh at the nicknames that Trump gives people. And he started calling the nicknames. And I was like, yeah, Little Marco. And why do we
That's still
remember
one of the
politicians
Right.
by Little Marco?
Yeah,
That is
lying him.
Like,
hilarious.
It's
this is
entertaining.
obscene.
Yeah. But clearly it was effective. I don't know why. I mean, clearly a lot of people who were behind Trump at the time are no longer employed or intact, including Cambridge Analytica, which if you haven't seen this documentary on Netflix, you get like the stuff they did was crazy. You got to see it. So Cambridge Analytica, like we've talked about that with Facebook quite a bit. We're not going to get on some sort of a Facebook topic because I'm outnumbered here and I don't want to get on it. But the
We'll give
data
you some
that they
grace.
use to figure out what people liked and didn't like and what to show them and what to feed them, like genius. And I really think that if that was still available, candidates would have a lot more to offer because the campaigns are always won digitally. Since Obama, you win a campaign on the internet. That's how you win it. You can host town halls, you can host events, and that's great, but you social media is how you need to win your election. So Biden's still in the lead right now.
Of course.
Right or behind him, Sanders, Warren, Kamala. So it's kind of like
Really? We're
the
still
same
in the same
handful of
Yeah.
people.
Down.
The numbers have changed, but Biden still has a really strong lead. He's at 27 and Biden's at 15, which is not close per se. So for somebody who's so tired, as Ricardo was alluding to before
He
we
is tired.
started,
Who?
Biden,
He's tired.
he's doing great.
He's
you know,
old.
All them old. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
They
but
are.
Well,
when
he's
you
done
stand
this
up,
before, guys.
that's what I was
so,
saying.
yeah.
I-
yeah, but that doesn't make
The
him the best
analogy-
candidate just because he's done it
the
before.
analogy
No,
I
it makes
used
him
was-
tired.
if you, the analogy I used was if you worked at a job before and then you leave and you want to go back, you don't want to interview again. Like I'm
But
not
if you're
going
not
to
the
again.
CEO
put me back in
and
my
you come
position.
back and they want to bring you in as a CEO, you have to interview, especially if you've only been a CFO or a COO.
That's a
But
chief
he's ran for
executive. You don't have to do
president
that.
twice,
He didn't win.
both times.
He didn't
So he
win.
went from
Biden-
not the
Bernie
president, not the
Has run
president,
before.
to
Serving as the vice president.
vice to running
Twice.
for president. This also isn't the first time that Bernie's ran for president.
But we ain't talking about Bernie. We
Like
talking about
3 or
Biden.
4 times, he keep losing. Stop running.
He has a
What's
dream.
funny is that Biden has a general overall popularity rank. So he's polling equally among men and women. He's still number one for Hispanic Democratic voters who are polled, Black Democratic voters who are polled. He seems to have like an equal
He
footing.
got the
It's not like
field.
most women are behind him or most men are. He seems to just
He
kind of
got
have
the
an equal.
field.
Who we talking about?
Biden.
Look,
Because
I
Whereas
already told
Kamala's
y'all.
trending
Biden
better
is the
among
only
women.
person that get on stage and don't yell. He's the only one in the Democratic
Well, look
debate
he
that
served
didn't
the last
yell.
2 terms, though.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
come on.
I've told
That's
y'all, I
beneath
said
him.
this once,
You know-
I'll say it again. Biden is a wingman. I don't know if he can be the guy that sends another guy to go bring the girl back to him. He's the guy that go gets the girl and bring it back to somebody more popular. I
Biden-
don't know
Biden-
if
Biden
he's that
doesn't
guy.
have
Biden
to
is
get
6'5".
girls. That's not what
What does that
cool
do
is.
anything?
Any white man that's
We
6'5",
talking about
They
president.
come to you.
We're
That's what
talking
I'm
about
saying.
You
president.
know what I think it
6'5".
is? I don't really speak politics, but he did. Look who he served for the last 2
Yeah.
swaggerific
Cool as a
terms,
fan.
okay? And so I think we may be getting tired of what we have now,
Of
and they're
course.
hoping that just a little bit of the Obama's rubbed off on Biden, and he can.
But
come on
Biden
and-
been
can
like
hope.
A
that.
little bit is not
That-
going to be
I
enough.
think that's the thing that people started going back. Like Biden was a trend for like a day when Kamala went crazy on him. Like people started doing research on him and then everything he's been attached because nobody did that. Nobody knew what he was really attached to in the 90s. He has really gotten policy passed. He had legislation passed. Really battled across he's one of those guys. He would be, if Bernie was like him in the 90s, it'd be totally different. If Bernie ever had gotten a bill passed.
So you're trying
ever.
to say Bernie never got a bill passed?
40 years in government
Wow,
and you've never got a bill passed
that's a long time.
until
is.
this little $15 that ain't gonna get implemented until 2021? Right, 2019. You mean that these kids gonna be broke this year, next year, and then the beginning of 21 because it don't get implemented until almost the summertime? Why would we want you to be president?
I mean,
Listen, okay, so let's just focus on what divides us. It seems like
Just saying. You see how I got real sad?
I
Real
mean, there's
quick?
a lot of issues on the
Right.
table right now, and Democrats and Republicans are very split amongst those issues. So, like, if you look at colleges and universities, we talk about college a lot. We talk about the cost of college a lot, student loan debt a lot. 50%. Okay, so here are the polls amongst party lines. 67% of Democrats say colleges and universities are overall positive for the country. 33% of Republicans say the same thing. So 46% of Americans approve of Trump's handling of the economy, but that number for Republicans is over 80%. When it
Still?
comes, yes.
Yeah.
When it comes to gun policy, 61% of overall Americans believe that we need better gun policy. That is over 70% for Democrats. That is less than 30% for Republican voters who believe we need to change something with regard to gun policy. One more issue here that just popped up for me. Okay, who has a chance to win? So 67% of Democrats believe that Biden would beat Trump in a general election.
Which he would.
60%
No,
believe Sanders
I
would,
can't say
and
that.
only 58% believe Warren would.
No,
I think 58 is kind of high.
Biden would beat him in the general election, but
I think so too.
so did Hillary.
That's what I'm about to say. I don't know
Right.
if Biden, because remember, if he takes the nomination, he's gonna have to do a lot more talking than what he currently does, which is not a lot.
No, he
He's
just
gonna have to do a
talks.
lot more
He
talking.
talks policy. I don't want to. What am I arguing with you about?
Yes, but
Exactly.
again, you're going up against a sitting president who is an entertainer. If you think he's going to sit up on stage and talk policy, which he's proven time and time again, he's going to pull away from the issues he don't want to talk about. It's not going to work.
But we saw what happened when Hillary tried to go back at him. Like, let's jar against each other on stage.
Well, Hillary is not that girl. Y'all keep saying that Joe Biden has this little swag about him, and he got to be that
He
guy.
does.
I mean,
And now is the perfect time to practice
He's had swag in
to see if he can do it.
He's had swag in that office for a
He needs to
long
practice
time,
now.
though.
If you know you're going to be the nominee, then you need to start practicing now to see how much swag you got. Because if your swag is not on point, we need to get it fixed now. Because
I
once
think
you get in the ring with Trump, it's a
I
wrap.
think it's more like an adult coming back to recess, and now all the kids was on the playground acting up, and now it's like an adult's back because he doesn't even debate against them. If you look at it, like Biden always has his own conversation to the cameras and to the people. He doesn't. He's
Yeah,
not
'cause he
mudslinging.
like-
He's not wasting his time.
Right.
He's like they're all competing for my VP spot, and I'm
Right.
here to tell you, what I
the
think.
policy.
Yeah.
Like that. Let's talk about policy. So in the second debate, if you look at him on stage, he literally does not look at anybody else on the stage.
I mean,
So
sure.
Biden, So let's talk about he's not like Sanders. Sanders be looking because Sanders look like he's standing on like a little stool because we know he's real short. He looked like he want to jump off the stool and run up on people on stage.
He is.
And that's fine. But when you go toe to toe with Trump, which is ultimately what you're going to do,
How is
that's
that
not
gonna
going to work
But
with
they
Trump.
just-
How
They
do
the
you
same age and he
practice
gonna
for
lose.
that, though? There's
What?
no practice for out entertaining the Donald.
I
Yes,
bet
it
Dave
is. You
Chappelle
start making
can
little
do it.
slick
Dave
comments
Chappelle
now.
can do it.
Like when you're doing interviews, like, yeah, so you're not going to worry about little Trump. You got to start doing
Trump is
little stuff like
also
that
a big
now
dude.
to
But-
see what
but
people say, see their
Trump-
responses. Because you're not going to have time to practice once you get into the ring and it's mano a mano.
You
You're
can't
not going
call
to have time to
Donald
practice it.
little though.
I'm just
He's
saying, you
like
have
a
to come up
really
with
tall
something.
person.
He has to come up with something.
Little hands.
Something that's going to
He
stick.
do got little hands.
You
though.
call the orange guy.
True.
Well, then when you talk about that orange guy,
Maybe you
I
can
mean,
say Donnie or something. Well,
Yeah.
he might like that.
He
he
might
got
be
to come up
saving-
with something. Because when you go toe to toe with Trump, Trump is not going to stand flat foot and talk about no policy. He's going to start making little comments. He's going to pull everybody to the sides. This is not going to work. You know it, and I know. So I don't know why you're trying to see if it
So,
act like
wait,
it's
Ricardo,
all good.
Ricardo, are you
But
still
hold on.
Team Bernie then? Is that what you're saying? You Team Bernie?
I'm not
The
team,
Burns.
I'm
That-
team
yeah,
Rice.
the Burnster.
I'm
Team
team
Rice.
Rice.
Are you not? You have to vote. You're not going to vote.
I'm going to vote.
Who you voting for?
I'm not really
Bernstein.
sure. It depends on what happens.
Yo, I just
can
want
join
them
the
to
Yang
stop.
Gang.
Who's the best
stealing-
entertainer?
Stop stealing Andrew Yang. Like, why they keep stealing this stuff?
Which brings me to my next point.
Yes.
So where
yes.
do we?
I'm finna get attacked. It's all good.
Like, why they keep
So,
stealing this stuff?
Where do we stand with Yang? 'Cause I have heard nothing else about him lately. So what is
Because
he
they
doing?
keep stealing this policy.
His audience
Well, he
is
better learn
growing.
to step up.
His audience is actually growing. I mean, he's not.
According to who? Because I feel like this is.
Celebrities.
follow
He has
him
a
on
lot
Twitter.
of celebrity support. I think.
Did he?
what's
He
her
passed
name?
Booker too, right?
It don't
Oh,
take
well,
much.
Booker's
It
gone.
doesn't take much.
Booker's gone. Yeah.
Yeah, it's over with. For
I didn't know how Booker got to the debates. I'm not even gonna front. You know, I love to support another black man.
Rosario Dawson.
Yeah.
I don't know how. Oh yeah, that's how you got
Yeah.
it. And now that he lost that wave because he didn't know how to maintain it, once again he's back in the shadows. I think he was in Atlanta recently though.
Yeah,
Probably.
a couple of them came here.
Well,
Nicolas
Buttigieg was here, but I didn't
Shut
get
the
to go.
whole downtown
Jack
down.
Dorsey. Who else? I want to say Normani. But anyway, he's got a lot of celebrity support.
Who?
I think it's something
Yang?
about that. Yeah, it's catchy.
It's
You know,
money.
It's like you said.
It's money.
They don't care about $1,000.
Well, they do.
I
The
do.
millennials do.
I
Well, they don't care
They
about
do.
$1,000.
I mean,
Bill de Blasio.
Yeah, but it's like when you hear people debate it, like it went from Williamson and Warren. So it went from him saying $1,000 to them actually putting a number to it. Like, no, we're gonna break it down, and people are gonna get $600 a month at it as a tax incentive, and you'll be cuz let them have that.
Yeah.
Like, stop trying to, cause now they trying to figure out the math, and it don't sound right when they do it on stage.
well, I mean, that is a good question. Is that math feasible? Can you literally give everybody $1,000?
I'm
Where's
sure
that?
you can.
Because the question
Three-
comes from, where is that money coming from?
Look at the numbers. So among white Americans, 3% of white Americans that's in that elite, that 1% that we say, okay, the top 1%, 3 of those people have more wealth than 180 million people in the country. 3 people. 1 person in the black community has more money than every person in the black community. 1 person. That's a lot of money when you're talking about. So if you're just talking about one company like Amazon, they ain't paid taxes in 4 years.
Which I still don't understand.
But
Sorry.
that's your man. You wanted them to get $15 an
That has
hour.
You
nothing
did.
to do with Jeff Bezos. I'm talking about Amazon in general.
The company gives people money. They pay people $15 an hour. They give them however many
better.
hours they want.
How does that relate? How does that correlate with them not paying taxes?
The same way that if you had a company and you hired 2 people and you paid them $20 an hour and you wrote it off on your taxes, like, no, look at what I'm giving them, the incentives and the insurance and the this and the that and the tax. I'm giving them this, so I should get it too. So when they make $100 million in 3 months, how you gonna battle that?
Another thing to think about too is that what Andrew wants to do for the $1,000 is like a universal basic income.
Giving it to the rich people and the
Well,
poor people.
yeah,
like,
just like something, just like a flat income
Right.
that everybody can have. So the other candidates, like Warren talked about, she's talked about doing this a different way, like using our tax system already, like $1,000 off of this or that. Like Kamala talked about housing, like kind of a rent subsidy or cost of living subsidy. Those things make some sense. Where I'm confused about everybody getting $1,000 check in the mail.
But you can't live off that. A lot of people.
You can't live off it, but I'm confused about the crime. I'm confused. I'm confused about how that works. Like, we clearly can't even get our voter registration straight because people's addresses are so inconsistent. So I'm really confused about how you're going to get $1,000.
well, it wouldn't be
or how
mailed.
else it would happen.
It wouldn't be
He said a
mailed.
check in the mail, but
It'd
how
be-
else would it happen?
I mean, it'll be direct deposit. Like, you would have to have a bank
So you'd have to
account.
be banked.
You would
So
have
then
to be
there's the
banked.
unbanked population we have to consider, which we were just talking about a little bit earlier.
It's a lot of.
Okay,
it's-
Kyle,
it's a lot of-
I
this
haven't-
is
Just
your
honestly-
man.
tell,
honestly-
tell
honestly-
Andrew, tell Andrew to just get his logistics
I
down
haven't
for
thought
how this is
about-
going to happen.
I haven't honestly thought about how it can affect anybody outside of myself, though. I haven't thought. I'm just being honest, completely honest.
So look, I'll argue for Kyle because I've watched all the Andrew Yang. It makes sense. Like, when you do the numbers, it makes sense. You're not talking about like a whole lot of money people is losing to give everybody an amount of money. When you talk about the amount of money that 4 to 5 companies in this country make, and you took 1% of their overhead. So say a company make $1 billion a year, take 1% of that, and then another company make $1 billion and take 1% of that. $1 billion is not really a lot of money to somebody that's making $36 billion a year, like Pfizer. That's no money to them. They get grants for $10 billion. Like, oh, hey, here's $10 billion in research money. It costs $10 billion to research. That's a lot of money. I'm gonna take 1% of that, and then I'm gonna spread it out. So you're not talking about 385 million people in the country that be able to get this money. 385 million people don't have bank accounts. In real life, you're probably only talking about less than 200 million people
I just think it's silly.
that would qualify to have bank accounts. But at least 75 million are children, so they can't get it. So you're talking about 18 and up that would be able to get this. You're probably talking about 100 million people. That's not a
It's
lot.
just- no, it's not a lot, but it's just not a good idea. That's all. You know.
But other programs are in place like that. Like, that's technically what SNAP is. If I could send you $1,000 a
But that's
month,
for specific, like, when things have a purpose, when they're allocated to a purpose, that's one thing. And even that is a subsidy that doesn't address the bigger problem, which is wage stagnation, which is the rising cost of education, rising cost of healthcare. Like, the problems are still there. The source of the problems are still there. So we're just like Band-Aids, more Band-Aids, more I just don't like Band-Aids. I just think we need to fix the actual problem.
this America, that ain't gonna happen no time soon. If they cut SNAP like the way they've been talking about for the last 6 years, The
Well,
way they
people in
cut
Georgia don't
people,
even have SNAP the way that they used to.
yeah,
Like,
they
didn't it
cut
decrease by,
food
like,
stamps in
30%?
Georgia like
Yeah.
dramatically, like, and it was bad. So imagine if
But
they
they're
just cut
celebrating
it.
it as a win, though. Like, I think the governor made a statement a couple months ago saying, like, not saying this, but I'm paraphrasing. Do you see any bodies in the streets? Like, are people starving? Like,
But they do
we
that.
cut
They
it.
do that because your state gets that money, and then it's spread. It's spread between the people in your state that get
Mhm.
food stamps.
Mhm.
So imagine imagine if they send your state $1 billion in subsidies and say, okay, this much goes to food stamps. Well, when they cut people food stamps in half, so if you're getting 500, now you're only getting 250. They get to keep that 250. And they get to go somewhere else. But when you do that to 1 million people, that's
Yeah.
a whole different
Yeah.
type of money.
Yep. That's why people have been flooding food banks. So, okay, I know we have to go to break in probably a couple minutes, but there's a couple other interesting pieces of news about Trump that I think are kind of worth sharing for this past week. So the president canceled his trip to Greenland after Danish officials said that they wouldn't sell the country to him, which I just think is kind of funny. Trump said he was
Well,
quote unquote looking to stop at
Who knows?
So first Denmark. Trump was looking to stop at Denmark, and then said that he would like to purchase. After officials said that they would never, he
He's
said,
not
okay.
a puppy. He's going to look.
He said
You're
that I'm
not gonna look at
canceling
a
my
puppy.
trip. He said I'm canceling my trip, then I'm not going to go see your queen.
Oh my God.
The reply was, "quote Is this some sort of joke?" That was tweeted by a former Danish prime minister.
This is so
He
embarrassing.
said, "Speaking for
It's
It
so
is.
embarrassing. They're talking
And he
about
never
our
responded.
country. This is embarrassing.
Right.
When people actually, we wasn't on air when this happened. So apparently, other countries at one time who were considered third world countries at one time have now told their people not to come to the United States.
Right.
Right.
Now you know we've hit rock bottom. When you used to be a third world country and you're telling your people not to come to us, we've hit rock bottom. It's official.
But they've been doing that for a while. Like Europe was giving out.
Europe can do that.
I forgot what it's called when you renounce your citizenship.
Yeah.
They like cut you a check. Now it's 10 countries in Africa that when you renounce your citizenship, or if you decide to move to Africa, to these parts like Ghana, Nigeria, I forgot, it's a few other countries, South Africa. If you come there and you register, get a registered visa, you are allowed to vote. Like Ghana was the first to implement that maybe a year ago, when they was telling people like if you wanted to leave your country and move back, we would give you I forgot what it's called, so you can get property. So they was allowing people to come and get property. Like if you could track your roots and it's there, you are allowed to vote, get property and all that. So imagine if other countries started doing that to Americans. Like, we don't gotta come there, bro. You can come here, we get money too. Look at what China doing. China not playing with these folks.
What's
That's
China
true.
doing?
Man, look, we don't got enough time. We
Like,
about to go
before we
on break.
get to China, New York Times basically said that it was just Mr. Trump's approach was an insulting and transactional vision that he could buy himself a territory of more than 56,000 people and consider it just another quote real estate deal, since that's what he I guess.
Why? Can I
He
ask
said-
why?
But y'all do
Why?
know
He's
that's
since joked about, well, he said Greenland is a beautiful island. A lot of people said there's lots of reasons you may want to acquire Greenland, more particular military base. I guess Harry Truman tried it way back when, like in the 40s, and was unable to do so. He's now joking about trading Puerto Rico for Greenland and saying, well, is that something you'd be interested in?
Monopoly.
And I guess
That's
Puerto
the game
Rican
of
Twitter has come back and said,
But-
well, we'll go to Greenland
But
happily.
that's what
Wow.
America is. Like America was just a territory that a few people can. Hey yo, so like I'm the king of here, and I'm the king of here. We want that part.
That was a long.
Like France was like, yo, let me get
That was a
this
long
south
time
part.
ago.
These are self-ruled, like they said, self-ruled territories. So it's insulting.
The ideology that our president, sitting president, thought it was okay to go somewhere like he's buying a puppy to
This
go
not the
look at it
first
and play
time.
with it.
And they say, well, I'm not going then, bye.
This
Yeah, and
not-
then they say, well, if you're not giving me what I want, then I'm not coming to your country or your country, and y'all can all bite me. That is not how this
And
works.
it's coming back down.
But this
on
not the
people.
first time.
Exactly.
You
Now it's
know?
embarrassing on us.
It's not the
Right.
first time.
I know
The
that. but
history
it's-
books,
And it
just
won't
don't
be the
tell those-
last.
Yeah,
We
the
know.
history
He has
books don't.
more time in
4
office.
presidents have tried to buy European territories. 4. It's not the first time.
I know that, but now we have social media, so everybody knows it.
And that's the
now
difference.
you really look dumb.
But that's what
and
I'm saying. They're not gonna put that stuff in the history books. They're gonna put this in the history books.
They don't
And
have to.
It
They
might
got
not be a book.
hashtag.
It's gonna be the internet.
He's just trying to keep us entertained. Like,
Clearly.
so
He's doing a
earlier
great
in the
job.
week, he quote said that he upset a lot of Jewish Democrats, calling them quote disloyal. He says if you if you vote Democrat, you're being disloyal to the Jewish people and to Israel. So basically, Trump is a president who has kind of followed the only traditional Republican thing I think you can say that he's doing is that he really wants a strong relationship with Israel, and he's tried to declare Jerusalem, I want to say, essentially not a sanctuary city, but I guess a designated city, and that really upset Palestine. This was like last year, I think later part of last year. Now he's basically saying that because of all the work that he's done to build relationships with the Israeli prime minister, that if you are a Democrat and you do vote for Democrats, that you're that you're just disloyal, basically, that you're anti-Semitic yourself. So the only reason this has got a lot of headlines lately, mostly because when you call a whole group of people, whether they're religious people, cultural people, racial people, disloyal or loyal for voting a certain way, and you're pandering,
He's done that
you're
before.
minimizing.
I know, that doesn't make it any better just because he keeps doing it.
It doesn't. It happens with black people quite a bit.
Yeah,
because
that's
of how
what I'm saying.
loyal
He
we
do
vote
that to black
Democrat.
people all the time.
Yeah, but we bounce back quicker, so we don't. We're prone. Those of us that are socially conscious, we say stuff.
Black
But
people
other
are
individuals who
super
are not
forgiving. They be
socially
like,
He has
that
said
too.
that.
we be
yeah.
laughing like, bro, crazy. Bro,
He
crazy.
said that in his own way about black people too. Like when he says that he's been the greatest president for black and African Americans
Oh, yeah,
ever
he says it
because
all the
the
time.
unemployment rate is so low. So yeah, in
You
his
do
own
know
way,
that
he's kind
it's
of said the same thing.
385 million people in this country. 6% of that is still a lot. 7% of that is still a lot.
We're not
9%
7%,
of
are
that.
we?
You know,
I thought we were 13%.
my problem with this
Unemployment in the
with that statement-
country. Like,
Well, my problem with that statement is, again, I tell people you have to be mindful when you talk about numbers. Numbers can be manipulated and they can be made to paint a picture. Okay, well, everybody may be working, but where are they working? If I have an MBA and I'm working at McDonald's and I'm not a manager,
That don't count.
and I'm making stuff like I'm not in my field, so I'm making money, but I'm not making nearly
That's a
enough
good
money
point.
to pay back my student loans. I'm
Yeah.
not making nearly enough money to live off. So
Which is why he's canceling them for veterans. Was that right? Was that the news piece this morning?
Yeah.
the what?
That's a great thing, isn't it?
He,
Ricardo's
All right, well,
face
hold
has
that.
been-
Well, hold that part. We're gonna take a break, and when we come back, we're gonna get into more this and other topics on the Leadership Blend with your host, Ricardo D. Rice.
That's y'all.
Cause I was born a water baby, swimming with these times, the grooves that turn the gray to sunshine. Cause I will live through days that break me, swimming with these times, the grooves that turn the gray to sunshine.
I'm still trying to write the story as I see it. The trouble is when I say it, they don't believe it. They reckon I only say it, but I don't mean it. I'm trying to tell them I only say it if I can feel it. Cause money's tight, maybe tighter than it was before. I'm helping out on a mortgage I really can't afford. Family breaking north, I cover the trips abroad. Shaking, I'm making another loss on another tour. But what I done it for? To see my mother in the sun abroad. Outrunning the trouble that was coming for. My little brother got the hunger for all the exact same pain that makes the rain in my stomach pour. So let me paint it broader. This for any dude who's got a daughter, living off lines like your papa taught her. Ain't got no time to be coming for you. Go with the flow with this, run the water. Go with the flow with this. Go with the flow with this. Go with the flow with this.
Don't you worry, chilies won't grow the same, and people might forget your name. Doesn't matter if they do. Don't you hurry, when the hot coffee pours will stain, and when the Uber left you in the rain, the time will come around to you. Despite the stress of spending so much time alone, cause this geography is keeping me at home when I don't know the way to go. I move with the flow of this running water, this running water. Cause I was born a water baby, swimming with these times, the grooves that turn the gray to sunshine. Cause I will live through days that break me, swimming with these times, the grooves that turn the gray to sunshine.
Okay, everybody, we are back on this. What's it, Friday?
Come on, bro.
Payday.
Come on, bro.
Look,
Come on now.
on this Friday edition of the Leadership Blend with your host Ricardo Rice and my correspondents
Simone Cherie.
Kyle Andrew.
Double-r.
and our special guest.
Master life coach trainer AJ Austin.
Okay, wait. So you know you have to do what I love to hear you say. I don't think you do it anymore, but you got to do it again. Your tagline. What was your tagline?
Confidently convert conversations to clients' cash checks and credit cards.
Baby, that's the tagline for you right there. That's the tagline for you. All right, so we are back, and we have so y'all know I have the internship program. You know, sometimes I put them on my show because if you can handle my show and my correspondence, you can go anywhere on this network. So I'm gonna let him introduce himself and tell everybody a little bit about himself. So take it away.
My name's Solomon Stringer, and I'm an intern, as you know, at IBNX Radio. And I just came here to gain some knowledge, gain some news knowledge with my friend Simone, my friend Kyle, and my friend Double-r here. And I want to disseminate the truth. So, you know, I just suck up all that knowledge that's hard for people to understand with the big words and the theatrics and media and politics. And I want to simple it down for y'all ears so then you can listen, y'all can embrace it and do something with it, so then we can produce a movement, so then we can actually get policies and laws passed that benefit your children, your kids, so then they don't look at you and say, hey, Grandpa, what'd you do when they were doing all this stuff? I was fighting for you. So, you know.
Okay.
That was a stump speech.
I know. And he's young. How old are you, Solomon?
23.
Yeah. Wait, Kyle, you what? 25?
I'm 24.
You said it like you were offended. You're 24. You said it like you were offended. Like I missed it.
You're pushing me to 30
Like you
too quick.
missed it,
No,
like-
24.
Hey,
When
hold
do you
on. What
turn
you saying about 30, bro?
I'm saying, I'm scared of 30. I'm not ready for it yet.
What?
What?
Life gets magical at 30.
Look, let me tell you something. You're going to turn 30,
Uh-huh.
and the day after that, you're going to be like, I don't even feel different. Like,
Right.
I don't know.
it don't even change
Except for your
nothing.
back and some of your joints and your bones. And
Don't scare him, AJ.
this is
Don't
the truth.
scare
I
him.
wish someone would have told me that.
Oh, good
You
grief.
know.
All right, so I'm going to flip it a little bit because I was really taken aback when I saw this article because I was like, we still doing this? This is still a thing? So apparently, federal prosecutors have charged 80 people, most of them Nigerian, in a web of scams that the U.S. claims has robbed millions of dollars from businesses and elderly people. 17 so far have been arrested. 2 of the men indicted allegedly ran a romance scam out of California. In this kind of scheme, scammers reached out to women online and started relationships via emails and messages. Those usually escalated to outrageous claims of hardship and requests for money. And one scammer said to have been perpetrated by the men. A Japanese woman sent her online love interest, really a scammer, several payments to help him smuggle a bag of diamonds out of Syria. U.S. prosecutors estimate the suspects together have biked $6 million. All will face charges of conspiracy to commit fraud and to launder money, plus aggravated identity theft. Some also will face fraud and money laundering charges.
That's
How are
like-
people still getting tricked over the
Is
internet?
this still a
It's
thing?
2019.
How
It's
is
still
this
a
still a
thing.
thing?
Still getting
Dog, it's a
catfished.
whole
Wow.
show about
And
it.
it's a movie. It's 2 different movies out about that. And one guy actually tracks down the scammers and interviews them. Like, you don't feel bad for taking this money from little old women?
Nah. Yeah, it was a young boy in DeKalb County that got locked up. Scammed the city out of $10 million.
Mm.
Still stay with his mama.
Greedy.
Wow.
Still stay with his
I'm just
mama.
surprised
10
people got
million.
locked up. That's my whole thing.
Right.
He was
Well, I mean,
only
they're in
20.
the millions, so it becomes a federal
He was
thing.
like
We get that.
20
I
years
get that,
old.
but I'm still surprised they got locked up. I mean,
I'm just
As
okay.
opposed to what?
you know how when in 2008, like the bankers, they defrauded a lot of people. They didn't go to jail. No one got indicted. So it's like
Except
it's
for 2
amazing.
people.
Entirely
2
different.
people went to jail.
It is different, but I'm just saying, like, it's amazing. Like, even there's still crimes. There's still
You have to
crimes
take your
committed.
class into consideration before you commit a crime.
But you had $10 million. You better you
cough up some money.
better cough up some
I
lawyer
guess
fees.
when this happens, I'm like, okay, well, I think about my grandmother and think about her on the internet getting scammed by some Nigerian dude. Like, where are your grandkids? Where are your kids? Nobody asked questions that grandma stayed on the computer all of a sudden till 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning giggling like some schoolgirl. Nobody asked these kinds of questions.
And what is grandma looking for in these Nigerian men?
But you know what? It's not always grandma, though. This happens to young people. I have a personal friend that dealt with, it wasn't the money side of it. It was the
Catfish.
true person who shows up when you meet men online or, you know, and I've only heard one well-known relationship coach. Say it again.
What was the thing?
Oh, not the look. He was the person. He was his picture, but he beat her. Right, that look right there.
Wait,
That
what?
happens all-
He beat her in front of her child, and, you know.
No, that
So
happens.
we're still dealing with that, but that was a part of Meet Online. I'm a representation of who I, want you to believe I am, and then show up as
Yeah, but they're not even meeting these people like this. They got
Right.
this money out of them strictly through the internet. So I'm
Right.
like, okay, we have one or two problems. Either somebody's really that lonely that
Mhm.
you are that open
Yeah.
to having somebody on the internet that you never actually physically meet, or we just have a serious issue like that. There's no safeguards around our elderly that somebody can get away with stuff like this. Because we're not talking about $20.
Or-
We're not talking about $100.
Or-
We're talking about millions
So to
of
be clear,
dollars.
this is a
Or-
website.
What
not
does it say? It
or
just
like
said
a
they-
dating
Or
app?
or it's a combination
I think
of
it's
both.
Facebook.
Facebook?
Well,
It
Insane.
happens a lot on
It's
Facebook.
a combination of both.
Yeah.
People are lonely. Like
Yeah.
that's just one of those, and people don't like to admit when they're lonely, because being alone and being lonely is two totally different things.
Right.
And people acknowledge, like, no, I'm just at the house by myself, alone. No, you're lonely. You're lonely at the house by yourself.
Yeah.
It's not the same. So people be alone and lonely. So when you get on the internet and there's somebody that's just willing to communicate with you, just out
Right.
of nowhere, like, hold
And
on,
you don't
think
have to
I'm,
leave your house.
and like, oh, you think I'm attractive? Oh,
Right.
let me see you this picture.
Yeah, but having conversation is one thing. But when it gets to a point where I'm sending you money, and we're not talking about one or two payments, we've crossed
look,
another threshold.
You do know that this is the internet, and
Right.
people are emotionally attached to the internet, which
Right.
is the reason that kids can say they can get bullied on something they could just cut off.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's kids. We're talking about grown adults.
I'm saying, I can just cut this off. Like you can just
But that
cut this
FOMO
off as
kicks in,
because
that
adults
FOMO.
keep saying that they're getting bullied. You
Mhm.
cut this off. So the same way I can cut this off when I'm getting bullied, I can cut this off when I get them weird DMs on Instagram telling me hi, you want to come look at my OnlyFans, or when I get one of them emails from some girl out of Nashville that say, hey, we met each other there and this, and I'm just trying to get back to the city. I get those emails too. Everybody gets them, but when you see it, you
Yeah.
like, I don't even know nobody in Nashville.
Which is why I don't feel bad for the victims in this story. I can't.
These are elderly
I
cows.
can't
No,
feel bad.
I don't.
But I don't feel sorry either.
What?
I can't.
Because like, just go back to what y'all used to before the internet. Go back to face-to-face
Well, they
dating.
want to
like,
be online.
I mean,
They're gonna
online
take away
dating
their
they
is
can
a real thing.
participate. They can participate, but you got to know what you're getting into before you get into
But
Oh,
it.
no
they
don't know
one gets
any
that.
better.
Yeah, they don't get a
They don't know
disclosure
any
Okay,
to
so to
read.
this credit, I work with a lot of nonprofits, just so everybody. One of the organizations we just signed on for is called Savvy Cyber Kids, and they do this for kids. Like they go into schools and teach about like digital literacy and what's real and what's not, and what you should click on and what you shouldn't, and how you should conduct yourself. We really probably need that for people of all
So
ages.
now we need to add the nursing
need that
homes
for-
to that
I think so.
that round.
I agree.
All right, so
internet
Mobile tech literacy. That's
is
a new
not
business.
real.
What's
Nothing
That's a
that-
lie.
What?
That's a
Really
lie.
have to get
Wait a
money out of
minute.
people.
It's not.
That's a
Right.
lie. I met my wife through the internet and we're head over heels, by the way, still. And I
You gotta
just
throw that in
No,
there.
you.
I'm just saying.
No, what I'm saying. What
There's
I'm
a-
saying is, you are real. He is real. He is real. I'm real. He's real. She's real. He's real. We are real.
Mhm.
We just so happen to be on the internet.
Well, yeah.
The internet is not real. It's the people that's on. So if you take something that you see on the internet as fact and no, that's real. So everything that we're saying, I really mean that.
Well, yeah.
It's the internet.
Well, what's
I don't
real
gotta mean
though is the
anything.
connection. It's a real platform. It's a real
To
connection.
individuals, it's
Because
real.
imagine how many people like my one viewer on Facebook Live is real. Hey, girl, I'm just saying. Facebook is like a place where you believe 1,000 people are your friends.
And
but
that's
you
what
know,
I'm
But has
saying.
anybody ever been catfished here? Has anybody ever like been or just
Yeah.
just
Before
Yeah.
it
Okey
became
doke.
a- before
Can you
it was
please just
exposed.
share?
yeah.
Oh, I got you. I
Okay,
got
so
mad
here,
stories.
all right, here's
Actually-
the thing about catfish.
Hey, look,
And-
Kyle about to get in his bag real quick.
So here's the deal about catfish, and I think that Neve and Max
Yeah,
need
yeah.
to define. There are classes to catfish. I'm gonna school you today.
Really?
Yes, there are classes to I've decided there are classes to catfish. There is the old picture catfish. It's you, but it's not currently you.
Right.
It's a 10-year-old picture. That is a catfish.
Okay.
Number 2, a personality catfish. We have conversations,
Mhm.
and we thinking, you.
But that happens
then I
in
meet
real
you,
life.
I know what I'm
Exactly.
saying.
Right,
But then I
right.
meet you, and you don't like your picture, and that's not even your personality. Like, so that's that. And then there's the real catfish where you just don't. You're not even a person that you do.
Right.
My problem with
Okay.
this is, and I still don't get this to this day. You create a fake profile. You probably got somebody to do a voiceover because it may not even be your voice, and you pressure me to meet you. knowing good and well this is not you. I don't understand. What are you expecting the outcome to be? I don't get it.
Well, so it's catfish. You actually have to meet the
Can I answer
person,
to
like
that?
follow it to the
No,
end.
it's when you want to meet them, and then
No,
when
you
you
have to
eventually
follow through.
when
Follow
you,
through, okay.
when
You
you
gotta follow through.
eventually meet them, they're not the person who you thought they were.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I have one.
But
of those
it's the
stories. I got like
this
a
is
almost
the thing.
like a wait a minute, this ain't right.
Yeah.
This
No.
is the thing.
No, you
I've-
have to go past that.
Okay,
Like,
well,
do
I've
anything.
never been.
I've had
catfished.
face to
I'm a
face
catfish
catfishing, like that emotional connection that you'll build with somebody on
Right.
the phone. Like, oh, we cool, and we text it. I don't text a lot because I drive. Like, don't text me, call me, cuz. Like,
I don't like. Don't call me because you probably can't hold a conversation.
and
If
and
you
that
could
one
text
say,
me, text.
but
do you
that's-
wanna be
that is
connected with
a
someone
way
like that?
to find out if you're getting catfish.
Yeah, that's true.
Because there's people that text a whole lot. I'm talking about sending real long text messages. I ignore those. You better call me and say all that. But I met somebody and I'm like, hey, this ain't you. Like the person that you were on the
Oh,
phone.
so like somebody else was texting for them?
No, like I meet you in person and all that conversation we had on the phone and
Oh,
through text and then we face to face.
But that's different. Sometimes when you meet people in person, the energy is just not like. Sometimes it really is like the energy is not there, which is why like online people were like this was a catfish episode where they were having a great connection for years. Then they got in person and they were like
That's the first
because
problem.
they
They y'all did
didn't
for
have
years. That's the first
anything.
problem.
You know what I mean? So sometimes it's
I'm
like
not. You got 3 weeks to produce a time for us to meet
good
face
idea.
to face.
Good idea.
After 3 weeks, I've lost interest. I'm deleting your whatever we communicate through. We're not doing this for
Agreed.
months at a time.
I
Like,
No,
think you
that's
should write a book on that.
3
That's
weeks.
So you got like 3 different
Three-
types of catfish. I ain't
You know,
never heard.
3
You know, she's
weeks
the
is a
book
very
coach,
long
so-
time. That's a long time.
That is a long
I meet
time.
people in person.
oh, I was being generous because normally it's 3 days, but I'm,
I'm
just
like-
saying I was trying to be
I'm
I'm
generous.
like in real life, you don't even got that long. Cause
I'm
in
just
real
saying.
life, if I
3
see
seconds.
if I see you somewhere and I come and I shoot my shot,
Right.
it's different when I shoot my shot on the internet.
Yeah.
Cause on the internet, I'm gonna forget that I took that shot.
Because you
I'ma
shooting
forget.
so
You can
many.
see it in
in
your
If
your
you don't
DMs.
reply the same day, I'll forget. Cause I don't shoot a lot of shots on the internet. I
Wow.
also don't look at the internet a lot. Cause I live real life. I meet people in person.
Okay, well, you can stop acting like
That's
that.
why my
This
situation
not-
is so rare and
Oh my
special.
God, here we go.
Because I
Look,
really am not
hey,
even
look,
on the
we
internet like
we
that.
are happy for you, Simone.
I'm just saying.
Then there are us that are still on Tinder. You know what I'm
Okay,
saying?
still swiping right and left. It is what it is. Some
People
of us are
have
still
been married
swiping.
That way. It's happened.
Oh, God, this is one
And
of the
they'll
few
be
days I
right
really
on
don't like
Ashley
you.
Madison.
Yeah, people
just
be,
saying.
People be happy about that. So I'm in a good, happy relationship. So
I'm not even let you share.
Throw that in
Go
my
away.
face.
All right, Kyle, you had a catfish something you need to say.
Oh no, it wasn't a story. It's just my girlfriend. She catfished me one time, and I fell for it. So she made this fake Facebook account.
Wait,
Crap.
wait.
Wow.
oh, she tried to get you caught up.
Test.
Wait,
Yeah.
That's like trust issues.
It was like 2 years ago.
Wait,
yeah.
and wait, you said that your girlfriend, which makes her current,
Yes.
catfished you.
Yes. This
and
is 2 years ago.
managed-
This is not current. This is 2 years ago.
But it happened.
But it happened.
It
It happened.
happened.
And you
fell for it.
Yeah.
and you
So-
still keeping her.
I mean,
Or
it,
she's
it was
still
my
keeping
fault.
him.
It was my fault because what had happened.
It was your
Uh-huh.
fault that she catfished you.
Listen. So she made the account or whatever, and then she acted like she was this girl. That we were supposed to be meeting up or whatever. I was like, cool. And then so the next day, she texted me. She's like, "What are you doing tomorrow?" I was like, "Nothing." She's like, "Well, you're not meeting so and so." I'm like, "How do you know that?"
Ooh, she messed
Right.
up.
Yeah.
She caught her own self
Yeah.
up.
I would have hit her with the
No, she did it
nah.
on purpose. She tried to catch me in a lie.
Oh,
She did
wait.
catch me in
So
a
she
lie.
didn't really
Well,
catfish
she
you.
caught
was,
you though.
Well,
She
she
did
didn't
it
really
on purpose,
catfish him
yeah.
though. She was trying to catch you cheating.
Right.
That's not really
That's
a
the
catfish.
catfish.
per se.
It was somebody who wasn't real.
Yeah, but she
Well,
didn't
yeah,
want
true.
you. She didn't really
True.
want you though.
But
She
what
was trying
was
to
her
catch you. That's the difference.
intention? Like,
That
did
is
you
the
ever
cat-
To catch him
question?
cheating.
Is it
Why
really?
did you
It's
even
both,
do
'cause
this?
girls
She
do
was
it
bored.
all the time.
Women do that all the time.
Mostly on Instagram, not like a full-fledged Facebook post.
Yeah,
Now,
I
I've
have
heard of
friends-
people paying people to do that to a boyfriend or an ex. They had the little,
Or you
what's
can
the
even just DM
BuzzFeed
somebody
type
who is
thing?
real and just be like, hey, will you test my so-and-so?
That's dumb.
and
That's-
you can pay them to do that on your behalf.
Yeah, I had a
I've
girl
heard of
call
that.
me one time.
But I've never met someone who fell for it like in real life,
Yeah,
and still with the person.
I was,
Yeah.
I was on the phone. A girl called me that with a name that was familiar to me, a girl I went to school with, and I had a girl. Girl called me. I didn't know that the girl I was with, and this girl that called me with the name that's familiar to my life. I'm on the phone with this girl for 4 hours. Like we just talking about like catching up. My girl get home like, so what you been doing? Nah, I ain't been doing that. Kicking in the studio. I was on the phone for like 4 hours. With who? She brought the girl to the house.
Mm-mm.
See,
I believe it.
She's like, oh, this
believe it.
Stephanie.
That's
I'm like,
So
No,
Oh.
what people have done, and not even a woman. So when I was the guy I was dating a long time ago had this app, like this invisible app I couldn't see that was on my phone, just to record everything that had been going on and knew where I was gonna be and who I was gonna be seeing, just because he could see the text somehow.
So you had a technological low jack on your phone.
Low jack.
Technological.
That don't
It's like
sound
a tracking device. They used to call it
But like the person can't see it on their phone.
I know, but it was still there.
Yeah,
That's
you can't see
crazy.
low jack in your car.
Yeah, it's like they
crazy.
something they put on the, like see the movies.
I felt
they put it in the car.
I was scared.
Violated?
I was completely. I was cheating.
Because you were
But I
cheating.
felt entirely.
Wait a minute. Hold on now. You just
Oh,
can't skip
she
over
still
that.
got in there.
You know, but anyway,
The fact
Were
that
you
somebody
cheating?
would, I
Oh my
was, but the fact that somebody would do
You
something
do
like
realize that negates your story, right? The
All
fact that you
right,
were
just-
cheating,
you
that
was
you were
cheating.
guilty.
That doesn't make it right
second.
though.
It doesn't.
That doesn't make
Thank
it
you.
right.
Yeah, but it doesn't make it wrong either. 'Cause you
It's
were
not
cheating.
right.
So,
It also doesn't make it right that you were cheating.
but
what I'm saying.
y'all got some stories now. Just wait a minute. That was not.
I didn't
That's
expect
all
catfish to
good.
open so many
That's
doors.
Right.
Right?
We was started out talking about the
I
old
didn't know
people,
thing.
and
Well,
now.
because you know when I'm cheating is one thing. You seeing the conversation, that's invasive. It's one thing to know. It's another thing.
Like
to
you
just-
wanted to
Yeah,
you
you
wanted
know,
to
the whole
reveal that in your own
conversation's
time.
Nah, he just wanted to have the receipts. Like,
But that's like
you
details.
gonna
Which
pull
clearly
up?
he needed. Which clearly he needed. Because you were cheating.
Anyway,
God, Simone,
we
you a
can
cheater?
move on. We can move- Oh yeah.
Well,
just lost
I
like- you
want.
lost
I
like
got
2
a
cool
question, double, because I'm still at the girl. Both of them
Yeah.
showed up. How did you feel in that moment?
I
Let's
was
sit you on
confused.
the
I was
couch.
sitting in my studio. I was sitting in my studio like,
I'm sorry, isn't that what all niggas do? Don't they just get so confused?
Why are you confused?
Because you
rebuffed
can't
it.
lie your way out of
No,
there. Like you
'cause
in
look,
that
I told,
moment.
but I told her like, yeah, I was on the phone. This girl had hit me up that I used to talk to when I was in school, named Stephanie. And she's like, yeah, I'll be right back. So Kroger was across the street
should've
from the
ran.
house. I used to live in the Montage
Your
right out
first
Shannon
warning.
Tugger.
Right,
When she
run.
came back to the house.
Run.
This girl named Stephanie was with her. Like,
Mm.
oh, this Stephanie. This who you was on the phone with.
That's-
I'm like,
And you
you,
can't lie.
you not
See, I
the,
just don't like that.
you
I
ain't
just
the-
don't believe in that, man.
you a
Says the
cheater.
cheater.
But you're
gotta
gonna,
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
It says the cheater.
And that's the thing, like,
but that's
in
Oh
with the
my
field that I'm
gosh,
in music,
y'all.
like I always be around girls and women
you
like
cheat?
that. No, I'm not a cheater because I don't have that kind of time.
Mm.
Like I don't have that emotional wherewithal to connect to somebody like that and to keep that if I'm dating somebody. I got to deal with you and all that you got going on,
Well,
and then
clearly she's
turn around
crazy.
and
She
do
gonna
that.
Have somebody call you and then bring them to.
Yeah,
I
that
mean, we're
makes
not
me more
together.
nervous than somebody just
Of
showing up.
course.
We're not together.
Good, but they are.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
we-
that
we
was
feel
deep
like-
too
yeah,
now.
Yeah.
Oh,
We-
wow.
it was
That's
rough.
because that girl didn't show up at his house. Like
Facts.
She wasn't real.
Well, yeah, she
that's
wasn't
what I'm
real.
saying. What if she was
But you
real and
fell
your girl
for it, Ice
showed up?
Cold. You fell for it.
I was young, man.
Which okay, so that brings me to another story, which I don't have the details on, but I heard one of the other shows talking about it. Apparently, it was a female who was the side piece, and I guess she called her main dude, and he told her to come over so they could do whatever they do. He fell asleep. She burned the house down.
Happens.
Yeah.
That's some Lisa.
That's
What?
that's a problem. I guess the girl was dating a guy. She was the side piece, and I guess it was their time for rendezvous. So she called him. He said, "Come over." And when she got there, he fell asleep. He answered the door. She got mad and burned the house down with I think him in it. She didn't kill him, but she burned the house down or set the house on fire.
So burn the house down of the guy she was.
The
His
side
side
piece.
chick
the guy-
girl.
So she called him
She was
over.
the side piece.
Was it worth
That is her-
it? Like,
No,
what
it was
No,
his
his
house.
house.
Oh, okay, okay,
She
okay.
was-
And he
left
fell
side.
She
asleep.
was the side piece. She
Like
was
you gonna
going
make
to
me
meet
come
the
all the
man.
way over here, and you know I live
I guess that was
36
the
minutes
logic.
away.
So she set the house on fire.
Burn your house down.
All this over a booty call. You're not even the main
Because
chick.
what did you expect to accomplish?
Well, we
Just-
know what
now
she
this
finna
man homeless, he
accomplish.
got to come live with.
Oh no, he probably had good insurance. The problem is, like, the problem is like, dang, you just gonna burn the house down? My girl was in there.
I just think. All right, so we're gonna segue because we gotta get these two out of the way before we get to them. So Kyle, what do you have?
I have the Trump forgiveness, student loan forgiveness, or the 19-month-old baby. I like the 19-month-old
Yeah, let's
baby.
do that.
All right. So, in an Australian couple who put their baby on a strict vegan diet after their malnourished, suffering 19-month-old, they got away. Okay, I'm sorry, I bit my tongue. I tried
You
to ignore
thirsty?
it. Yeah.
Have a
My
sip
mouth
of
is
water.
dry. I mean, so like I'm a pescatarian. I don't eat meat, so I thought it was interesting. I wanted to put my kids on a no meat diet. So
Wait,
these-
have you never eaten meat or you just stopped?
I haven't eaten meat in a year and 8 months.
Me too, I'm
I
vegetarian.
eat seafood, but
For-
I'm a
for
pescatarian.
you.
Yeah. It's,
Wait,
it's done
okay.
me well.
So before you finish, if you spend 80% of your time at the Juicy Crab, does that count?
I mean, I don't eat seafood every day. Like most
Okay,
of my
I'm
meals are contain no meat.
That's pesca. a little bit.
Yeah.
Kinda,
Yeah.
That's
sorta.
your religion.
So what happened to the baby?
No, it's not a religion. It's
Right.
You can give
Okay.
birth.
Back
What
to
Yeah.
happened to the baby?
So basically, I mean, the baby didn't die, but the parents, the baby, the bones were like
Oh.
a week. She had no teeth. The parents, 35-year-old man and 33-year-old woman, were initially charged last year with their 19-month-old daughter. She had a seizure and was treated at Sydney's Children's Hospital. The child reportedly looked no older than 3 months old. The girl was fed a conservative vegan diet, which included oats, olive vegetables, rice, milk, and potatoes. An outlet reported. The girl now has been removed from foster care and is living in Queensland with parental aunt along with 2 other siblings.
These are Caucasians, presumably.
Yeah, Australia.
I mean, there are.
We like.
Actually, no, because that would be something I would have normally asked. So I feel very
Yeah.
proud that she asked
However,
that. not me.
even though they are Caucasian, it's something that I would have done. I'm glad it was done before it was me.
But that's the problem though, because if you're vegetarian, so that means you don't
I
eat
am.
any meat.
No meat for years.
So, but isn't there a certain thing that meat gives us that you have to substitute, like protein or something that we
yeah,
get
but you
from
can get that
actual
from
meat?
bananas,
beans.
legumes,
I thought
peanut
that was
butter.
I
potassium.
don't know if that
I say
applies to
study
me.
it before, but this 19-month-old
that don't
doesn't.
apply to children.
Right, he
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
have a choice. But there are kids raised. I know some Jamaican families that raise vegan and vegetarian kids. You know,
They
and
were
they
Babies?
toddlers.
But they usually
Well,
start around
I think-
4 or 5 years
yeah,
old.
like give the
Yeah.
baby a chance to
Yeah.
develop. I mean, because then you got a lot of African American kids that are born lactose intolerant. So we don't get, dairy milk and I'm allergic to eggs. I still eat them, but little stuff like that. I didn't die.
You know what
My
the definition
bones
of
weren't.
allergic is, right?
I start breaking out and rashing
And
and,
you
all
still
that,
eat
but
'em?
I still eat them. Gotta be
I mean,
careful. I
but
get
do you-
headaches
do
and
you
everything.
guys think that the parents should have even, been sent to jail? I mean, because their hearts were in the right place. They're trying
Oh
to,
yeah.
make their kid have a more healthy
I
lifestyle.
think that not sent to jail, but maybe putting some parenting classes.
Yeah,
Because they didn't give the child a chance to fully develop
yeah.
and then make their own decision as to whether or not they wanted to be vegetarian.
Simone,
This
what's your
this
thought?
is the problem.
Go ahead.
Wait,
This-
because she got a look on her face. What?
I was just gonna say the reason I said jail is because there was multiple symptoms. So by the time there was no teeth or no hair or no weight gain, or by the time the seizure happened, you've already broken like 3 rules. I just feel like by then, you need to go.
Well,
go
did
to
they?
jail.
Maybe it was more like medical problems, not linked directly to diet.
They gotta
'Cause
find
why-
No,
out
there
before.
there are problems linked directly with protein in children. So
But is that what they
protein
said in this
deficient
case?
protein deficient children don't grow teeth. So like if it's certain there are certain proteins that you have to take in on a daily basis that you get from milk, eggs, and meat. As a child, if you don't take those proteins in, you don't grow teeth. That's where you be
And they
seeing
said
these little bald head
malnourished. She
kids,
was malnourished.
these real skinny little bald head babies.
That's
that's-
weird.
That's why I say they could have been educated on. You can raise your child vegan or vegetarian after 2 years old or something.
Inability
But
to
it's-
crawl.
It's not a
Yo, come on.
It's
now.
not an eight. It's not one of those things. What this is going to end up turning into is people figuring out whether or not I'm gonna go to jail for raising my child the way I want to raise them.
Because that's just like the vaccine shots.
But,
Whether
I mean,
or not you.
but-
Well, vaccines are quite. You have to to go to school. You gotta get them. Now you can get that exempt form, but that's a lot of paperwork.
Which it should be.
That's a lot of
It
paperwork.
should be.
No, right. Anyway, go
But
ahead.
I was gonna say, but like, if you're gonna do these diets, you should have this knowledge beforehand. You can't just.
Right.
I feel my kids
Experimental.
Mm-hmm.
experimental because if you be this
And
is gonna be the
this don't
result.
sound experimental. This sound like something that
Well-
they have been doing. The problem is when you bring a newborn, if you are
That's what I'm
already
saying, it's
on that
experimental.
Yeah,
diet,
it's experimental,
you're already on that diet.
Mhm.
And
No,
if
it's
you
not.
breastfeed, which more than likely she was probably doing, you're not giving anything to your child. They just get like white water.
Or skim milk.
Right,
I
so
wouldn't
it's
say
still-
that.
but
I
it's
think
still
that's going for.
experimental.
I agree. They could have been pre-educated. Like she had 9 months
Yeah.
to talk to her doctor to say I'm vegan or vegetarian, and we're thinking of raising our kid that same way, and then getting that education to help her avoid going to jail.
And they
But
don't
just-
say that in the story, whether or not they did that.
They
or
didn't
not.
say he
'Cause
was getting water from her breast milk either.
I'm just saying, because doctors would tell you that if you've been vegetarian or vegan for a long period of time, like if you decide to raise your child that way, these are the things that you got to implement.
Or what you should be already introducing to your body just
And
for the
most
sake of the
people
baby.
don't do that. Like
Yeah.
most people that are vegan, vegetarian, or they go extra. Well, I only eat this, and it all got to be green, or this, and this, and it all. When they go that extreme, and you usually only see that in the white community. Black people not like
Don't
that.
say
like,
that. I think it's uneducated African American women as well because I've never been pregnant, but I am a woman. But I've heard about the cravings, you know, and I've heard of vegans and vegetarians turning to hamburgers while they're pregnant because of the cravings and the hormones. I guess whatever the
Now,
baby feels is lacking
And
in
on a
that
more positive
diet.
note, Burger King is coming out with an Impossible
It's
Whopper.
delicious.
Let's talk about
It's
that.
already out.
It's
great.
wonderful. I've had it
It's
like
great.
3 times
Me
in the
too.
last
It's
week.
so
so-
good.
And I'm
Oh, yeah?
confused.
Yeah, girl, it's good.
Cause what is it?
It's a
meat.
vegan.
It's
like a
plant-based.
vegan
It was
Whopper.
already out at places like Cafe Sunflower here in Atlanta.
But I'm
one of the
confused.
best
Like,
ever.
what is it?
But
It's
vegan-
plants.
It's
Look
like
it
a
up.
vegan
Let's
burger.
Google
It's
the.
like a vegan Whopper.
Yeah, it's black beans and mushrooms.
I don't
Which
like-
brings me
I
to
don't
my
like
next
mushrooms.
point.
Super nasty.
So y'all know exactly where I'm going.
Nope.
Try it.
You're looking
All
at
right,
me.
so who had the Popeyes chicken sandwich versus the Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich?
I
Apparently, it's a
can't.
We out of
big
this.
debacle.
You
Yeah.
better not say you.
I can't. I want to, but I can't have it.
I don't.
Have you-
No, I was gonna say, Chick-fil-A puts MSG in their food.
What is MSG?
It's like
Monosodium.
Oh yeah, there's a rule on the show. If you
Salt.
use any acronym,
Seasoning.
you have to explain what it is and
What it does.
stuff.
So MSG is like it's a flavor enhancer. It just makes things taste better than it should probably.
It
And
doesn't.
then you hungry. Well, in the Chinese world, you're supposed to be hungry like an hour after you eat because of the MSG. You can literally go into a Chinese restaurant and say no MSG.
Yeah.
Your rice will be a different color because you're like, wait a minute, I didn't know that was white rice. Yeah, the MSG is like a
Yeah, have
flavor or
you tried it?
salt.
Yeah.
What?
The Popeyes chicken.
Me and Popeyes don't get down like that.
Mm.
And actually, me and Chick-fil-A don't get down like that because the food is good, but they're a little expensive. You know, the beauty of Chick-fil-A for me is that it's not even about, because you very rarely hear people say how good Chick-fil-A food is. Everybody typically talks about the service.
Yep.
You go there, the drive-through real
Nah, them
smoothly,
chicken
everybody's
sandwiches
smiling.
is busting. I don't know what you
They
talking about.
cute, but most people talk about how
He
the
said they
service.
cute.
Nah, they talk about that food.
It's chicken. Zaxby sells chicken.
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A sells chicken. KFC sells chicken. Popeye sells chicken. Bohogli sells chicken.
Well,
It's
Who?
chicken.
But
Who?
honestly, I
Bohogli.
think yeah, we never heard of that.
Bohogli.
What is that?
Bojangles.
Oh.
My,
Jesus. Listen, I think
my sister call
though
it Bohogli's. That's
we're,
what
this is two different conversations because this is a conversation adults are having.
Right.
People go to Chick-fil-A because their kids are hungry after school and it's a quick drive-through, a 4
Yeah,
count.
but they expensive.
Oh, I don't
They
know nothing
are
about that quick
good.
I drive mine to
drive-through.
McDonald's.
I don't know nothing about that quick drive-through.
I
You
drive
talking
mine
about?
to McDonald's.
I live in
Oh, what you
Lawrenceville.
Chick-fil-A,
I live in Lawrenceville.
they set the standard for like, come get your credit card at your car if it's a
Yeah.
long.
Hey,
Y'all
look.
don't do that out here.
Hey, look, the Chick-fil-A on 78 right there on Stone Mountain Highway, across the street from the Quick Trip. Yo, that line be hanging out in the
all
street.
That sound about right.
Douglasville is not like that. They greet you at your car. They have
Nah,
two
they do the
lanes.
same thing. They
got
do
your-
the same
You
thing.
can't drive away because they already swiped your car.
But you gotta get up. You gotta get up far enough so you can get to them, cause there only be 3 on my side. If you
our
buy
people will dart in front of cars. 'Cause they
Bust
come
some
get
chicken
that.
with-
Not for
And,
chicken. They come
So-
and get your card.
But
and,
this
and
is
your
what
order.
what MSG is. It's called monosodium glutamate. Glutamate is a purest taste of something crazy.
Okay, if you gonna read
It-
the definition, read the definition.
So
I don't know what
basically,
you're doing right now.
it is the sodium salt of amino acid found in abundantly protein. So most meat has MSG in it already. What they do is when you add something extra for flavor, you're adding the MSG to it. So what they do is they put it in the meat, like they put extra in the meat. So your meat has flavor before it's cooked.
Look up images for MSG because it's actually in a salt shaker. Like a,
Yeah, it's weird. It looked like salt.
Yeah.
That's what MSG
Look like
looks
some
like.
Lowry's or
It look
something.
exactly
Yeah,
like
you know.
salt. So meat already has MSG in it. All meat has MSG. Most proteins have MSG in it. Adding extra salt and seasoned salt and this kind of that's all you're doing. So you just enhancing the flavor. But in Chinese food is different because they put MSG in rice. So when you put it in rice, rice doesn't have any MSG. So when you add it to rice and then you eat rice and then you hungry again, because usually you eat rice or oatmeal and you like, I'm ready to take a nap. Nah,
I
at
just-
Chinese restaurants, you can eat their rice and still be hungry. And I still don't understand that. Like, I'm confused.
Okay, that's weird. I'm gonna ponder that. All right, Samuel Solomon, what you got? So this is his first time introducing the story, everybody. So y'all know how this goes. So when you introduce a story, you tell the headline and then you give the facts and put it on the table for everybody to discuss.
All right. Well, actually, this is a story that just dropped 34 minutes ago. It's on international politics, if that's okay. China just retaliated against America with an additional $75 billion in tariffs from the from the tariffs that Donald Trump of last year, I was doing a timeline while y'all were talking earlier. August last year, 2018, Donald Trump put like 10% on $300 billion worth of American goods on Chinese products, and that escalated this trade war from like 10% to an additional 25% on the remainder of the 300 billion, and then he put an additional like 16 billion, and now China they put out a list of not only tariffs but again of like American companies that they're putting on sanctions. So like they're gonna start sanctioning America as early as like next year, and I also wrote down earlier this year the Trump administration was looking to potentially act without Congress to end federal control of the housing authorities, like Fannie Mae, Sallie Mae. Like they gotta pay back $200 billion because like the government loaned them that money, and now they're basically ending, like breaking that up. They don't have to pay it back, and like basically they're free to like say if you take a loan from Sallie Mae, Fannie Mae, federal loan, student loan, housing loan. You're up for the loan, but they don't have any.
Wait, so you telling me
Yep.
that they
We
just
talked about
absolved
this.
all the debt from Sallie Mae and Fannie Mae, but we still have to pay it?
Yes.
We talked about. You remember what I told you? So
I need to process this.
hold on. Let me get to you right. I graduated from school. I had $70,000 in student loan debt. 70 bannies. A lot of
Oh,
bands.
that's it? Because mine is higher than that. That's it?
70 bands.
Yeah, mine
And
too.
then I
and I had a full ride, but
then I started my master's program, and I went to Strayer. Shout out to Strayer.
All right.
And I'm almost done. So I go to Strayer,
Turn up.
and these folks say, "Hey, you only have $4,500 worth of student. This is all you have left." I said, "What you mean? That's all I got left? Like on this paperwork right here. Like I brought the paperwork that I got from AIU, and they told me exactly what the number was. They said you are allotted if you keep your grades at this, and you keep your GPA at this, you are allotted $100,000 to finish." To go from
school in
bachelor's to master's
Right.
to finish that program. These folks told me that I had $22,000 in interest added to my student loans because the first school I went to closed. I went to Westwood. Westwood closed. They lost their accreditation and they closed. So whatever I accrued as I was at that school, I owed. So when I left Westwood and I went to Brown Mackey and got my associates, they closed. So whatever I accrued when I at Brown Mackey, I owe. Then I went to AIU and I had enough student loan,
They still
enough
here?
money left.
Yeah, they
Oh.
gonna stick around.
AIU
They
still
okay.
AIU get money
Yeah, they good.
because they offer multiple programs. So I went to AIU and I graduated. I didn't go to graduation, but I graduated.
Kanye.
So I graduated and then I go to Strayer and they tell me I only got $4,500. So I contact what was then Navient. And I say,
Yeah,
hey,
they
cuz, what's
changed.
up there? What's up there? What y'all
Right.
talking about? What? Cause as soon as I left Westwood, Navient got all my student loans.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like
got
they
everybody's.
took control. So
Mhm.
I call Navient. Navient say, oh, we don't control any of that
Mhm.
anymore. You got to contact the Department of Education
Yep. It's like 4 different agencies, connections.
that control it, and 3 of my
Yeah.
student loans are with 3 different people.
But they use one database, and Navient can see it, but they ain't seeing it.
And so when I paid off one of my loans, which was my AIU loan, $40,000,
Jesus.
I paid that off because I juked the system. I
That's
went
look.
into
Come on,
deferment,
get 'em
and then I went into forbearance, and then I came back,
And then you moved
forbeared
in
again.
to AIU to live. 'Cause that's the house.
Yeah,
Just-
I forbeared it again, and then I deferred it again, and forbeared it again, and I paid it off. But then I found out that my Westwood loan, my first Strayer loan, and my Brown Mackey loan all have $20,000 worth of interest.
How is
So
that possible?
Right.
Because
like you didn't sign
these
up for that?
closed,
Question
the schools are closed. Nobody controls that loan debt.
Right.
So when the government bails out somebody like Sallie Mae and say, "Oh, y'all don't even got enough money to give schools, so we'll accrue the debt, but the people that still got to pay it, they got to pay it to us now."
And there's nothing you can do because they didn't technically sell it like to a collection agency and you can
Right.
contest it. This the government.
And that's
Yeah,
that's the
that's
reason why
it.
most
That's it.
people's loans aren't in collections,
Actually,
where they can start garnishing your wages. They can
And they
take your
will.
taxes, but they can't garnish your wages.
I don't know, 'cause they sure got
Sally
my sister.
Mae.
They can, yeah, I've heard of some going.
Sally Mae is a private company that's like backed by the government. So that's what
Right.
this. They're trying to end in the regulation of government and basically just be like a private company because they have a stock on the stock market and it's like $2 right now. But like as soon as like the recession comes, inflation rises and interest rates go up, that means a lot of more people gonna owe more on all their cars, auto, education.
Yep.
And especially medical and Medicare, like they're gonna owe way more money. So like if you're $20,000 in debt right now, that's gonna like be like $60,000.
This is y'all future.
With
Y'all the
it.
young.
Okay,
Y'all
like-
future.
Okay,
My
all
time.
right.
This is y'all
It's
future.
bad
We got the
because
degrees,
A
a
but
lot of
Yeah.
these things are connected.
Jesus.
When you find out that your country could lose billions of dollars
Right.
just in trade,
Yeah.
like billions of dollars in
Yeah.
trade. Like you do know that America is last on the list in the world of honey. Like
Yeah,
it's,
somebody was talking about that the other day. About
I
the
told you
bees
that.
and-
Yeah, I
Oh,
told
okay,
you
maybe
that.
it was
It's
you.
only 40 hives
Maybe it was
in the
you.
country, 40 major hives in this country. You do know that most of America's chicken doesn't come from America.
Half the
It-
stuff we
It
consume
comes
doesn't
from
come us.
Brazil. The largest company in the world of chicken growers is in Brazil. They also sell to every territory in the world. Every territory in the world. So if one of those places, so Tyson's chicken is Brazilian chicken. I don't know the name of the other
I
other
do.
ones, but
If you eat meat, what's the discrimination factor? Who cares if it's Brazilian?
We'll talk when I open the package.
but this
I
is
don't-
the thing when those type of America doesn't grow rice anymore.
Mm.
We also don't make steel anymore. We don't have those all. So the things that we don't make, that we don't grow, that we have to import. When a country like China say something like that, you look for everybody else to say, "Hold on," because we get that from them too.
Which is why
We mess with y'all in
Yeah.
America because y'all slick cool, but in real life we be hungry. So
Yeah, which is why we need to play nice. This is globalism 101. Everybody play nice.
Diplomacy at its finest,
Yeah.
and this is why I
Yeah.
keep trying to explain to people. And there was an illustration about the things that we just don't make. So that those little nice Apple watches and all that stuff that you guys love to have, most of that stuff, the stuff that's in it, comes from China. So
no,
make 'em mad.
everything is made in China.
I was trying to be nice.
Everything.
But yeah, I was trying to be nice. But yeah,
Everything.
that's why
Look
at
the
the-
trade talks are important.
Look at the inside of a Fruit of the Loom t-shirt.
Okay, on that note, we can
You
take a
gotta
break.
be announced.
So we're gonna take a break, and when we come back, we're gonna switch over to our guest today. So stick around, the Leadership Blend with your host, Ricardo D. Rice.
Feel you breathing down my neck as the blood's rushing to my legs. Waiting for a chance to prove that my soul it belongs to you. I just wanna go there. I just wanna
we
The
going back.
American way.
All right, everybody, we are back on this Friday edition of the Leadership Blend with your host Ricardo Rice and my correspondent
Simone Cherie.
Kyle Andrew.
and our new intern.
Solo dolo.
Oh, good God. Okay, so you can. That's okay. All right, so it's the second hour, so we're gonna switch to our guests. So we're gonna learn more today about the field of life coaching. Because I am not gonna lie, people say it all the time, but I really at this point do not understand exactly what it does. And now that one of my good friends is in it, I know if anybody can explain it, she can explain it.
Yes.
So take it away.
Wow. Hey, everybody. I'm AJ Austin, Master Life Coach Trainer here in Atlanta. I've been a coach for about 6.5 years. I've been training 3.5. And that's the number one question we get when people have Googled and YouTubed and found books on Amazon. And they call our number for the Fast Coach Training Office. That's who I'm partnered with here in Atlanta as one of their lead trainers. And they say, AJ, what is life coaching? I mean, people have been telling me I give good advice, and my friends come to me because they know I'll pray with them and tell them what they should do. Well, that's not life coaching. That's being a girlfriend. Life coaching is not about giving advice. It's about learning, being trained and certified on how to ask the right questions. And so that's what coaching is, asking you questions because you really have all of your answers within you. Like, you know what type of life you want to live. You know what goals you want to accomplish. Usually you just need somebody to believe with you because most of us don't have someone we can just pick up the phone and call and vent all of our business or life troubles to, and they actually care to help us get a result. So life coaches are there to help coach you through the result you say you want to get from where you are to where you want to be.
So wait, what's the difference between a life coach and a psychiatrist or psychologist?
Degrees, money, you can lose those license, training time. Shall I continue? The debt. Didn't we just finish talking about that? Sally Mae ain't nowhere in life coaching, okay?
Oh, lucky y'all, because that chick, she's not playing.
Oh, my goodness.
She's
So
coming for things.
it's a big difference. I mean, you still have to know what you're doing. That's why we encourage people to get certified. There are a lot of big names that are telling people don't get certified. Just find someone that coaches and copy them, copy and paste their model. Make your name big in the brand and influencer world, and you don't have to get certified. I 100% disagree with that. As someone who has been properly trained and certified as a coach, a degree in training and development, I know how important it is to sit under someone who knows a little bit more about an industry than you do, and read their books, watch their videos, Google them, find out what you can about them, and learn from them because we don't know it all. So,
Can you discuss why this was your chosen field?
ooh, that's a good question. I'm
Oh,
glad I
Simone
got to sit
she'll
right
get
here.
you. Simone is.
Yes, let's talk. So, I actually did start out at Clark Atlanta University here in
Really?
Atlanta, Georgia. I did.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I didn't graduate, but I started. there.
Did you get that? Wait, when you stopped, where were you?
I was in my second year. We talked about the debt rate. I had a full ride scholarship. Getting refund checks. Still took out student loans. Still got
For what?
because Gap
Oh,
to go shopping at the Gap. Me and
Oh,
my
my
roommate.
God.
Honest.
Yeah, and to just live life. And when I was at Clark, I was a psychology major. I started out as pre-med, but then I would look out on the quad and see the Greeks stepping and barbecuing and the friends out having fun. I'm like, I don't think I'm supposed to be in a chemistry lab right now. I think I'm supposed to be outside. I'm a
Oh,
people
good
person.
grief.
So I switched mid-second year. You know how that goes.
Facts.
And I was in the honors program, so that makes it twice as hard. They're like, if we're going to keep paying this $26,000 a year, you need to, maintain a
That would
certain
be great.
GPA. Yeah, so I was a TA as well, so I'm proud to say that. So we had to keep certain grades, and then I transferred out. By the time I got to graduate, it was through Mercer University, class of 2016, and I was actually a training and development major because it was still dealing with people. And by then, I was already a certified life coach as well because, again, I still wanted to help people. I realized it wasn't just in psychology or just as a pre-med major. I wanted to be a pediatrician, neonatologist to be exact, helping the babies.
How
When
do you
they're first
bypass
born.
all these big titles to
Get to life because it's still just as important. It's still about helping people. And my mom, on one of her sick beds, she had double pneumonia once as I was a pre-med major at Clark. And when I walked in those hospital doors and I said, if she's not breathing, I'm going to lose it. And she said, Andrika, you don't even like blood or snot. You need to change your major.
Yeah, that might cause a problem.
Yeah, and then I did an internship at my high school, and we had to test babies when they were born. Do they have all 10 toes, all 10 fingers? And I realized some of these babies are not going to be born what we consider normal. And I'm going to cry harder than the mama. So I probably do need to change my mind. So that's how I went from doctor to now almost doctor level in this life coaching industry, still using the same principles of being a doctor, being a psychologist, which is working with people and helping them change their current state, getting from one place to the next.
So the degree that you got from Mercer, what does it say?
It says Bachelor's of Applied Science in Human Resources with a concentration of training and development.
Huh. That's an interesting take. And here's a little tidbit. When you get degrees, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to use them the way that people think you should use them. Because I would have never thought about that for what you do, but it does go hand in hand with what you do. But I would have never thought, but I would have thought you worked in HR and did something as a trainer or something.
I didn't either. My advisor actually convinced me. She said, AJ, you already teach people. You already train because you travel and you speak as a coach. You already work with women, helping them build their own business, and you already do this. Just get a degree in it. And I said, you sound like my mom. Because that was her dying wish. Just finish school. She didn't care what I finished in. Just finish school, get your education.
Those of us that are older, that's our parents' running line.
Right.
They don't care
just
about...
do something. What is it? Have something to show for it.
Exactly. They don't care about anything else. Just like finish what you start.
Yes.
Or, that was...
So that was her degree. And now Liberty University has an online program where you actually can get a master's in life coaching. And so I'm enrolled in that because I'm just a nerd. I love learning.
I was saying, what does that even look...
Me too.
Okay.
What
does that even look like? What is in the curriculum for a degree like that?
It's different. It's about 10 classes of different types of coaching. You can be like financial coaching and relationship coaching. So I've already selected my classes, and I know who I like to coach already. I like people who are ready to change where they are. They've looked at their bank accounts. They're sitting in a cubicle somewhere, probably sneaking and watching Facebook Live or listening to us now like, dang, how she get to do this in the middle of a day? Those people that call and say, here's my credit card, when's your next class? Let me sign up. And they come, they learn. I also talk about writing books, which I know we'll get into soon. And they hear my story of how my mom died the same day that my divorce became final. So in that moment, I had a decision to make. What am I going to do? How am I going to show up in the world and have something to show for it? And so I had to make a decision. And now I use what I know and help other people leverage what they know and write books and speak and start their own coaching companies and just go for it.
Okay, so good. Actually, on that note, because I've never heard your story, so we get to hear it today.
Okay.
So tell us your story.
So that's what it is that led me to. I was not graduated yet. My mom died at 47 years old. Wow. She was an entrepreneur 13 years, so I knew what it was to start a business from the ground up. I didn't realize it was in my blood because my mom, my dad, and both of my grandfathers had their own companies and owned like gas stations and things like that in the Douglasville and West Georgia area. So I would find myself, like the women I like to work with, sitting in a cubicle, daydreaming, doodling, trying to sneak and go online and see how to start your own business. And 2008, April 14th, I got a call as I left divorce court from a 5-year marriage. I got a call while I was on the elevator that my mom had just passed away. And so in that moment, I literally stood in the road downtown Decatur, Georgia, staring up at the sky like, God, what do you want me to do? And I went home, had to clean out her house. Now, that's something when you have to wrap up someone else's life, clean out the house, handle $500,000 in medical expenses, and show up on behalf of someone you loved, but things you didn't know about. Like we talked about the older people getting scammed. My mom didn't get scammed, but you have to look at the bank accounts, see where the money has been going. You know, someone had stolen her credit card, a family member. We will not say any names.
No,
stolen her credit card, swiping it at Walmart. I'm like, she's literally laying in the hospital on her deathbed and swiping at Walmart, swiping at racetracks, swiping at the ATM. How is she spending this money and she's not here? So then I had to file a claim for $10,000 that had been told. All of that brought me to here, building a legacy, making sure that women are establishing themselves to where they're just not leaving their kids out there to figure it out, but they've set a standard for this is how you run your life, this is how you run a business, and this is how you build a legacy. So all of that, plus writing books about what I've learned, just being in business for myself, because that same day my mom passed and the same day the divorce was final, I was scheduled to be in the NBC studios on television. I had waited a year for that opportunity.
Wow.
And one of my ignorant friends, the same one who told me about life coaching, get this is the ironic part. She called me and she said, well, ain't she going to be dead after the TV interview? I got to make a decision. Do I go sit on camera and smile like everything is okay? Because my friend said she'll still be dead after the interview. Or do I go home? Because now my phone is blowing up. I'm the eldest and the only girl of 3.
I was going to ask you.
Yeah, so my middle brother is serving 2 life sentences in prison right now. My baby brother was 18 years old at the time, 5 kids.
Jesus.
So
at 18?
18.
You just learned what to do.
You know? And he was out of town. So I just gave him, the news over the phone. He said, stop playing. And I'm like, now I know I play a lot. I love to smile and laugh, but this is serious. And so he took it the hardest. And my brother who's in prison, it's been 20 years, 20 plus years. He's been there. He didn't get to say goodbye. Wow. So then I had to have those conversations with my family. And my brother's like, they see my mother in me. And I'm like, but I'm not her. I'm your sister. And I'm your cousin. And I'm your niece. Don't put what y'all put on my mama onto me. I don't receive that at all. Oprah's words to Ayanna.
That worked?
Yeah. And so I had to travel to Statesboro, Georgia, sit in a prison where they strip, search you like you did something. Bring $20 of quarters in a little plastic Ziploc bag so my brother could get some vending from the vending machine. I felt like a prisoner, but I had to go have what we call the come to Jesus talk with my brother.
I have him in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I have him in a heartbeat. I tell him right here, I'm like, look, you get 1 or 2 come to Jesus moments where we decide, it's for the interns,
and that's
where we decide what you're doing.
Yep.
And after them come to Jesus moments, I'm done with it.
You got 1 time. And I ain't driving 3 hours to do this. And then I get there and you in trouble in the hold. So I got to wait another hour for them to come get.
Well, they could put you in there for anything.
Right. But he probably won't. I don't know. I can't speak on behalf of my brother. I just told him this was it. Mama's gone. You a man. We got a little brother and 5 nieces and nephews. We got to get this together. And ever since, our relationship has been better. So that's a little bit of my story.
Well, I have a question about this just because, Ricardo, you kind of alluded to how many times you hear someone refer to themselves as a life coach. And one of the questions I've had is like, so what you've been through, I would validate that and receive that. And I would desire to have a life coach with that kind of, I would want to know the story. But when someone, like, what if someone's had shouldn't tragedy be a prerequisite, or would it be like what? Like I don't know. Like if someone told me that they've gone through 3 rounds of chemo, or they've, they were a refugee in the middle of nowhere and now they own a company. Like those sorts of things are aspirational. But if someone has had no real, if a breakup was the hardest thing they'd ever been, like I would have a hard time with a life coach.
But I guess that's the question to what she's saying. Does you living life
make you a life coach?
Yeah, make you a life coach.
That's a good question, but it's a 2-part question. So the second most frequently asked questions we get is, do I have to have my life together before I become a life coach? And the answer is no. You also don't technically have to have lived life to be a life coach. You can get trained as early as 16 years old.
Really?
Yes. If you look at Marie Forleo's story, she's one of the well-known influencers on YouTube. She's also a life coach. She was 21. And so life coaching isn't about I've been through something, now let me teach you. That's why I say it's not giving advice. It's not giving your opinion. It's not telling people what they should do, because you can't do that. I can't put what I've been through on your story because we don't have the same story. But if you ask my opinion, I have to know how to turn it in the form of a question to help you come up with your own answer. Because if I tell you what you should do based on my experience and it don't work for you, guess who you're going to be mad at when it don't work?
Facts.
So life coaching is about asking questions. And the fact that I tell my story and I teach storytelling and I write books, that does bring people closer because they can resonate. Like no matter who I tell my story to, someone is going to see just the inkling of someone they know, usually the person they see in the mirror every morning, and they're going to resonate with my story, and that brings them to want to know more about how to coach with me.
So people tell you their frustrations, and then you ask them a question about what they want out of life.
No, they tell their counselors their frustrations. They tell me their goals.
Okay. Just trying to
see. The main difference between the counseling and the therapy and the clinicians and psychologists, psychiatrists, they deal with the past. How did that make you feel? Like I have a counselor. I'm like, if you ask me how I feel one more time, I'm going to quit you. But she's a coach too, so she works. But counseling deals with the past. Coaching deals with the present and the future. So counseling is, why do you think you did this? Or what did your mom do to you to make you, I'm not laughing at the industry, it's just, they go backwards. Coaching says, Ricardo, what's your goal? I know you want to be a doctor soon. Let's talk about what you're doing today, and let's set some milestones and check in a week from today to see where you are with those milestones. I give you homework, and I take you from wanting to be a doctor to getting that degree in that set amount of time.
So you're almost like an accountability person.
Absolutely. I'm the accountability part. Yes.
And I see why you may want to have both. Because you may have the goals that you have, but then it's like,
yes.
okay, but well, why are you scared of blood? Oh, I saw a body. Oh, how'd you see a body? Oh, I grew up in a project. I could totally see that.
Yeah,
I can see
and
why you would want to have both.
Perfect example. We had a lady from Ohio. She came to our life coach training here in Atlanta. It's only one day, so we only get 8 hours for y'all to hear my story, learn me, fall in love with my personality, and everyone does. But
Of course.
she wanted to write a book, and she found out I used to, in my former life, like 2 months ago, help
I'm
women
about
write
to say,
their books.
that was not that long ago, ma'am. That was
I
not that long
changed.
ago.
I'm fully committed to being a life coach trainer. And I've been doing that for 3.5 years now. And so I get to see the different personalities. And her personality was, AJ has written, I am at 12 books now. And she's like, okay, she can help me write my book. So we go as an example on the board, showing how a coach can help you achieve those goals of becoming an author. And we get to a part of her story where she's dealing with those issues that require a counselor. She says, I want to write this book and I want to tell this story, but what will my family think? I can't help you with that, but a counselor can. And I was so glad that when she told me her story, I was facing the board and writing, because she said, my story is I shot and killed my ex-husband. Right, that jump right there.
Well, listen,
Now, I had a
she's on the
class of
police,
people. I had a class of people who was watching my reaction, so I have to set the example.
Right.
But in my spirit, I said, Jesus, you got to help me through this, because I've never had this. Now,
Wow.
I've trained over 100 coaches here in Atlanta from all over the world. They fly in and they do this one-day training with us. But that was my first time hearing that. She had already served, she didn't go to jail, but she had already served her time in the courtrooms and, you know, all the legal part. But
she was clear. Okay, as long
she
as
was
she's clear.
clear.
'Cause I'm like,
But
ma'am, are you guilty?
I did have to ask.
I mean, I'm presuming innocence first. She said ex-husband. What was he doing?
Because she's
That's
married
my
again.
first
I
thought.
don't even care
No,
about
we
that.
didn't
What-
go that
That's
far.
my first thought.
That's
Killing
counseling.
it.
That's counseling.
Okay.
So because she couldn't tell that part, because supposedly she was a minister, so supposedly she had been delivered
Of course.
and freed of all that. But you can't get past the part of, I'm ready to tell this story regardless of what people think, so that my coach can help me move forward. So we had to stop mid-session to say, you know what, you need counseling around why you feel like you're not ready to tell this story. Even though you've paid your debt to society in the legal system, you were freed and cleared, but now you're worried about your family and what they think if you write this book. You don't even have a book out, but you're wondering. So you're stuck in your head. So you can have a coach and a counselor. It is recommended. Because some things we're not qualified to do.
Mhm.
You know, you have to watch people stay in their energy and
Right.
be able to bring them back. And most coaches are not licensed.
So another question I have is then, what about lost people? What about people who don't know what they want? Is that somebody that you cannot then help if they're just like,
Now, when you say lost, I'm thinking mentally ill, maybe like lost in,
just purposeless?
Yeah, well, we can definitely help you find your purpose. We have this activity we do called the Purpose Finder. Anyone can do it. It's actually free online. If y'all want a copy of it, I'll send it to you because it works. And we help you get down to that. Have y'all read like The Purpose Driven Life or that book, 1 Month to Live? Basically, if you had a month to live or just a few short years to get out everything you wanted to do before you died, what would you do? So we help you write that. That
Boy, you ain't
exhale
even
right
lived
there.
yet. You
But
ain't even lived
still,
yet.
death in life happens in different stages. I told you my mom was 47 years old.
Which is scary 'cause-
But yeah, we help you find your purpose based on that activity. And then that helps keep you in line with not switching jobs so many times, not really wanting to knowing what you want to do. So yeah, we'll help you find your purpose and get clear on that. But if you're lost, you probably need to go to a counselor. If it's like a mental thing where you feel like I just can't get it together, then you're probably not ready for a coach.
Well, nobody's ever said that to me, but I meet a lot of people and think that, like, low key, like, you lost.
That's because
You should say, have you ever considered life coaching
I probably
or having
should.
a life coach?
I probably should.
Oh, my God. All right, so I want to wrap this because I want to get into book writing because you spend a lot of time in that, and I know
Right.
people definitely want to hear that. So to end that, if somebody felt like they need, okay, 2 questions.
Mhm.
What would constitute somebody to actually seek out a life coach, and what should they look for in a proper life coach?
Oh, that's good. First, you have to know what life coaching is.
Facts.
You know, so a lot of friends call the office. And my friend told me that they want to be a life coach, but we also encourage through Fast Coach Training, our motto is that a coach needs a coach. So as a coach, you're going to go out and look for a coach. And what you look for is someone like you. So, like she said, you know, my story made her say, you know what, I would want my coach to have some experience, some life, or been through certain things. So I have a friend who told me about the life coaching company that I'm with now, which is Fast Coach Training. She was getting certified before I was. She did survive 2 rounds of chemo and beat cancer twice. And so now she's a breast cancer survivor coach, you know. And so, but you can't coach someone through that if you've not been through that.
Fair.
We've had people, like I used to work with girls and moms as a business coach. I taught workshops for a minute, helping girls and moms have better relationships with themselves and each other. And then when my company did well here, like I literally have my company's name tattooed on my arm.
What?
Yes, because I was in love, honey, till I met these mama bears that I was about to jack their kid up. And I'm like, you just take her and go on. But we did very well as a company here in Atlanta. So I would get calls from Florida and D.C., you know, like, can we borrow the Journey Girl name? And instead, I decided to help women start their own businesses. And so I forgot why I started telling y'all that story. But
because so the two-part question.
Yeah, which was
the story.
What would bring
how to seek out
Yeah.
a life coach and what
what
should they look for
yeah.
in a life
I
coach.
still can't remember why I started, but I said all that because at the end of the day, you want a coach who matches what you need. Like, that's the type of coach I hire. If I need help with marketing, help with storytelling, help with writing a book, help with goal setting or making your first 100,000 or your first million, I look for coaches who have done that. So I know we talked about that at your nonprofit conference, where it's important to find a model. You know, someone who's been successful in the area that you're looking for coaching around. You don't copy them. You let them inspire you. You find out what books they've written, what videos they've recorded, and how you can find them online and connect with them and get in some of their programs. Because coaching these days is becoming more of a group mastermind community activity versus like a one-on-one. Because,
Gotcha.
you know, it's limited time in a day.
Sure.
All right, so let's flip the script and get into the books.
Uh-huh.
Because that was your thing for the longest. Because that's how I knew you. I knew you from the book thing. Then all of a sudden I saw, and I mean, it wasn't all of a sudden, but for me it was. Then I saw the master. I was like, oh, she's doing life coaching. Cool.
Well, I've been doing it.
I know, but you were doing the book things more because that's how I met you through Pixie.
Yeah,
Well,
so
at her
Pixie
book
was
signing.
one of our life coaches as well that came through the training
Oh, really?
and got certified. And she was one that followed me around to the training at the end saying, AJ, I want to write a book. And so that's how I got more into that. Because in the classes, I would find myself coaching our coaches through book writing. So one lady she came in as a beach body coach, but she really wanted to write a book. And so one of our activities, we walked her through how to write her first book. And 30 days later, I had her on the Amazon bestseller list.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you came along late. I had already written mine when you came along. Which
Yeah, and that was like the end of my career. Right when I met you, I was wrapping that thing up.
Why does that always happen to
Man.
me?
But at least we met,
Like, every time
though.
I come, people want to end stuff that I can
That
benefit
happens,
from.
yeah.
Well, that does
Y'all are so
happen.
selfish. Like, I don't.
Well, thank
I
you.
don't understand
Hey, that's a
why-
compliment. I just value my skills and my time more than convincing somebody to write a book. Y'all get on my nerves. I got tired of that. I'm like, either you ready or you not.
I commend
Let's
you
go.
for doing it. I was like, I don't even know how
Ugh,
you did that.
Lord Jesus.
All right, so, but we're going to get into that.
Uh-huh.
So, everybody feel like they want to write a book, especially now. And now that self-publishing is no longer the underdog of writing books, not literally anybody can do it.
Yeah.
What constitutes somebody to really tell their story through a book? Like, there should be something that distinguishes why you should write a book.
Well, in my former life,
Which
as
was
a
about
book
2 months ago. Which was about 2 months ago.
I would have said, you have to go from a want to it being a must. Tony Robbins talk about that. Everybody want to write a book.
Mhm.
Everybody want to be rich, but who's willing to put the time and the work in to make it happen? And so my job as your book coach is not to convince you to write your story, or you get mad when you see Tyler Perry do a new movie and you like, that's my story. Well, you didn't write the book, so you can't be mad.
Exactly.
So you got to go from wanting to do it to be willing to sit down with a coach, map out a plan, stick to it, like Pixie did. Pixie was one of my hardest working book writing students. Like, she did it, and then she said, okay, now what, AJ? What's next? Those are the type of people who write books.
So is there a self-created schedule that you should use to write a book? Because I'm not going to lie, when I wrote mine, it was kind of like, everybody kept asking me for stuff when I would talk about generational leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody would keep asking me about stuff. I was like, you know what? Now that I have a radio show and a TV show, I need a product. So I took the generational leadership part out of my dissertation, made it user-friendly, and then created the book.
Yeah.
But that's not everybody's story.
Right.
So how would you go about properly writing a book? How did you usually tell people to do that?
I eventually, right before I quit and walked out,
Which was about 2 months.
which was about 2 months. Give me 60 days. Just say it like
Okay.
that. It sounds better.
What is it? Okay,
Oh.
60 days ago.
I actually was reading a book from a lady who is what we call an indie publisher, someone who, helps you get that story out and get your printing done and that cover done. And I read a book about sponsorship, and I remember taking notes on the content, but then I also noticed how the book was laid out. And I said, this is a really good model. And only I can read a book and see how it was written. And
I was thinking it.
I took notes. And that became an outline. And I know for sure she starts at about $5,000 to help you write your book, which is really low in the industry.
I mean, unless she's going to put it at the top of a New York bestseller list.
No, that's low. That's about $20,000 for something like that. But nobody can guarantee you any list.
For $5,000, you better be. I don't have $5,000 laying around.
Well, $5,000, I guess should just help you get that book out and into my hand. So I read this book. And I noticed how it was laid out, and I just took notes, and that's what I would give my clients. So start up at Google and find a book outline. I professionally designed that outline based on what I saw in this book. She didn't say, this is how you write a book. I just saw how the chapters were laid out and the specifics of how your topic applies to you and why people should care. Because, see, that's a mistake a lot of people who write books make. They write it based on what they have been through, or I've been through this. I was a teenage mom, so let me tell you what not to do. Don't do this. And they start fussing at people. Nobody wants to be lectured. But if you can tell me how you went through something, you came out, and how I can apply it to my life successfully by reading your book, then that's, more likely to get on a bestseller list somewhere.
Lord. Yeah. This is, I don't mean to, Jennifer Lewis, who's an incredible woman. Her book reads so much like that. Except that because she's still in the process, a lot of her stories don't have lessons. So a lot of times it's just her going through, and I mess with him, and I caught this. And then I was like, I'm done with it. But then 3 chapters later, somebody else that she did the same. It's just weird. But anyway, I understand. I'm just like, where's the moral? Where's the
that
where's
leads
the
to
moral
bad
story?
reviews on Amazon. People are like, it didn't have a point. Save your money. Why did I read this? And so that's what you will hear. There's a book coach. Her name is Andrea Loria. And I'm telling you her name because if you think 5,000 is something, Sister Girl charges $14,000 a person, and you gonna work in a group of about 14 other people. Then you gotta travel to her castle in Virginia. Okay. So I'm bringing her up because she also offers an outline, and she is big on consider your reader. Regardless of how long it takes you to write this book, you have to write with your reader in mind. And so even as I was writing my last book, it was book number 12, but it's called Messaging Magic. I followed Andrea's outline, and I love how she made you consider how would your reader need to hear this information? How can you spell this out in your book without going around the world? Make a point. What is the lesson? What should your reader get from this? And a lot of people, if you don't have help writing your book, you don't know to write like that.
Okay. I'm thinking about when you say consider the reader. So that means you need to identify your target audience. Like who you
Yeah, but that's boring when you say it like that.
Okay, well you
said consider the reader. We're talking about book, but yet target audience is more for when you sell the book. Because, see, I write books for women entrepreneurs, but my biggest supporters have been men.
Really?
Yeah, but they're not my target audience, but women are my readers. So it's 2 different things, reader and your target audience.
So how do you consider that when you write a book? If like yours has 2 different, so how do you consider that when you're writing a book?
They don't necessarily have 2 different audiences. When I write, I say, girl, hey, girl. But I've had men clients who have literally begged me, like, here's my credit card. Coach me. Don't leave me out, because what you teach is universal. So I've worked with very few men, but my experience, I'm a professional woman. Like, I can't tell you how to be a man, but I'm an expert at being a woman. That's why when we talked about childbirth and all that, I don't know some parts of that, but I can relate to some parts of that, okay? So I say that because my experience is in being a woman in business, and I can only coach you from what I've been through. I can't coach you from any other angle. But if you hear me tell my story and talk about my books, share my story, you're going to think of someone you know. And that's what the men who have supported my book journey, they've said, I know someone who could help, who this book could help. Can you sign this copy? Here's $100, give me that many. Or here's $300, give me that many copies of your book. And here are the people I want you to sign them to and address them directly because I know this information can help them.
So when it comes to marketing your book, let's say you wrote the book, you're done with it. When it comes to marketing, what are tidbits that people should consider when it comes to marketing your book?
Well, so that's the target marketing. Like, who is this targeted for? But then you have to consider, just because I wrote it to women, they still have the men in their lives. They have people who they've told, I want to start a business someday. I want to become a coach someday. Even my new book, Messaging Magic, I do that conversations to clients, cash checks, and credit card tagline.
Look, well, every time she used to do a video, that was the first thing I just felt, I was like, this is a tagline. Yes. This is a slogan. Because I was like, I want to try to say that.
Okay.
It didn't go well. But I tried to say it. It did not go well because I could not say it like you. But I tried to, because I was like,
that took a long time to pull from that story I just told you.
Like, every time you said it, I was like, I love
Thank
it.
you. And I decided to use that formula in my last book, Messaging Magic. And what I realized as I was writing to women entrepreneurs, there were also nonprofit starters who needed this to get funding and what do they call it? Donors and members. And I actually got a call from Pennsylvania to come speak at the Atlanta Botanical Gardens earlier this year, to help their crew of people who send out these newsletters to try to recruit sponsors and donors and make people leave them in their last will and testament.
Plan gifts,
with the formula of telling a story.
Plan giving. Yes.
So that's right. And so that's two different audiences: women in business, nonprofits, and then you have now kids who can't afford to go to college on their own. I was blessed with $100,000 in scholarship. The car I drive now was my last scholarship check as a graduation gift for 2016 class of 2016 Mercer University.
Facts.
But those are my receipts I have, and now I get to help kids tell their stories. Those who can't afford to pay for college, those who want just a little bit of that $100,000, I get to use that same formula of converting conversations in that book. So that's 3 different audiences, one book targets, or 3 different audiences that could benefit from the book. But just my target is women entrepreneurs and telling
You
their
can get
story.
a car at Mercer University. They give you cars.
No, you don't get cars. You get a check for the scholarship, and you can go buy you.
Oh, I thought
I
that was,
needed
you
a
said
car,
gift.
so-
I thought they giving out.
No,
cars
that was
at
They
Mercer.
were giving out cards. I go back to school. Hey,
I've
Well,
petitioned
if they were
Emory.
giving cars, I'd be in a 2019 and not
Facts.
what I'm driving. But I'm thankful for my little Honda,
Amen.
so. So yeah, that's what I did with my last graduation check.
All right, so we're down to like 2 minutes. So, final thoughts, nuggets that you want to leave for listeners who are either transitioning in life, who could benefit from a life coach, and people who are considering writing a book because they feel like they have such a compelling story.
I would say, like I mentioned earlier, find someone who's done it successfully. And I am a walking, talking success story for not only our Fast Coach Training Company, which is here in Atlanta, and how to use a book and put that story in that book. And I sell it to you in the training. So you're going to leave with my books and what I teach on how to write a book, how to be a coach, how to market, how to grow, and make your money. If y'all need me, I'm at 1-800-269-3817 or fastcoachtraining.com. Check it out. Get our dates. We're coming up on the end of a whole series of coaching classes. So I know we got something coming up. So if you need me, I'm here.
What's your social media?
Social media at Messaging Magic on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. That's where I am the most. You said something about books. I don't know. Just come to class and see how I do.
You are really over this book thing.
I'm over it.
You
I'm
are over this
so
book thing.
over it,
'Cause
okay?
One time, that was all you did. And now you're like, yeah, I don't.
I may be back. I have a contract on the table that's pretty nice. So I may be back teaching some things. But as of today, I'm a master life coach trainer, okay? So meet me at fastcoachtraining.com, okay?
All right, people, there you have it. Master Coach AJ Austin.
Yes.
All right, so everybody, final thoughts. Start with Simone.
Final thoughts, everybody. Be careful with your online activity. I mean, this does apply to all age groups. Sometimes it's not a matter of dating. You know, I've got a father who likes to order things from China and thinks he's getting deals and messes up all the time. So just be mindful of your activity. Savvy Cyber Kids is a really great organization. They do have online material, digital material. You print it out, give it to somebody who's a little slower on the uptake, and that should be your service for this week.
Yeah, research. Research is a big deal. When you're talking to people online, if you don't know who you're talking to, if you are giving people, if you're looking to switch up your diet, make sure that your kid is able to,
Survive?
Grow.
Survive.
Essentially.
Survive.
Ideally.
And thank you to Miss AJ for coming and, you spit some really good knowledge. I'm in a weird transitioning place in my life right now. So, yeah.
And you're not too young to become a life coach, so just consider
No, that's not for me.
Don't let
but
Simone
thank
intimidate you. Don't let her intimidate.
And too rich.
I'm not rich.
And for the newbie.
Buy gold. It's
What?
real. Yeah, I know. But it's real money, and if you want to go to college and don't have to worry about paying like $100K for college in the next couple years when it rises, buy gold. You'll make more money, and it just topped its all-time high recently.
Opinions expressed by correspondents are not indicative
Okay.
of opinions of
I
other
don't have any
correspondents
gold money
or
just laying
Leadership Blend
around,
Radio
so,
Network.
I mean, all right. So shouts out to, like I said, my sis, Master Coach AJ Austin, and my correspondents. And you get called the newbie until we get to that place.
All
So
right.
the newbie.
Nubian.
Good job today, and we will see you guys on Monday, same time, same place, on the Leadership Blend with your host Ricardo D. Rice.
All right, and we're out.
Right.